I really think this Discovery. So, yes, the first season kind of went off the rails.
Yeah.
It was like a
They didn't know what they wanted to do.
Everyone's a psychopath. You can't trust anybody. We're just going to leave that shuttle pilot out in space.
Yeah, what the hell?
Now, granted, I
didn't
liked
think the
what they
second
did
season
with the
was any better.
captain because, spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen it, but from the moment you meet Captain Lorca, you're like, something isn't right here. And then, something's not right.
Yeah, very much so.
And that was really good the way they did that.
It had some shining moments. It really did. But overall, I found it grating. Like,
I get it.
every single time that most of the characters in that show, every time they opened their mouths, I would be like,
So
Stop.
Here's a fun fact because I still remember this. When DS9 premiered, that was exactly the main complaint about DS9 compared to Next Gen was, it's a soap opera now.
Yeah.
And personally,
First
I
season,
grew up and loved Next Gen with all my heart. But DS9 went to another level.
Oh, the serialized stories.
It was ahead of its time.
Yeah. And in all honesty, they even went against a lot of the things Roddenberry wanted for the franchise.
Well, so if I don't know, spoilers again. I don't know if anybody else, whatever. This is like season 2 spoilers of Discovery. If their intention was to go how far in the future? 400 years?
900 years.
900 years?
Yeah,
If they're-
930.
Yeah, if
There
their
you go.
intention was to go 930 years into the future, they should have done that by episode 3 of season 1.
Yeah.
I don't know what the last 2 seasons were, but they're all pointless now.
So
They're
what that
all
was,
pointless.
I feel like that was a mixture of a lot of things. I feel like that was a mixture of a writing team that wasn't really sure what they could get away with, but more importantly, I feel like that was probably Paramount telling them to play it like safe by main. I don't know why they would think a prequel would be safe, considering we'd already tried that with Enterprise.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't dislike Enterprise. It had its moments for me.
Absolutely.
And when they first announced Discovery, I was like, we don't need another prequel.
No,
And I think they kind of realized that, and they're like, let's do this differently.
I feel like they knew where they were going with it from the beginning, because when they first teased Discovery, they said it was not going to be a prequel.
I wonder if it's one of those situations where they had an initial pitch and the studio didn't like it, and so they were like, okay, we'll do this, and then they liked that, and then they eventually got the leeway to change it.
By season 2, they were like, we have freedom.
Exactly. Yeah.
They
I
probably
just wanna
realized
say
that
that-
those Star Trek series, the first couple of seasons, they don't know what the heck they're doing.
I know.
That's
They're
true.
trying to find the
I-
audience because, again, as you mentioned, it's a new time. So
Mhm.
they're trying to make it a social commentary, and they have to, figure out what works, what doesn't work,
Yeah.
and that's why the stories tend to be all over the place. But when they find their hook, that's when things typically pick up.
There's a lot about Discovery that I do like.
Mhm.
There's way more that I don't like.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really hoping that they have the 2-season startup time that TNG, Deep Space Nine.
Oh yeah,
Voyager,
DS9. Yeah,
had.
absolutely. They all
Like,
kind of
They all had that slow churn to get into the point where they were actually watchable, and I really hope Discovery takes off. I really do.
I just want to vet this statement by, I've never watched Discovery.
I'm sorry.
However, the one thing that I've been exposed to, and I can't deal with
I know
it.
this is going.
I know.
I can't.
It's not even the worst part.
This is going to play into good science fiction is based on fiction in a way.
I can't deal with it.
Nonfiction in a way, like real
I already
things.
know
and they're
where
just
it's
making
going.
this crap up.
Oh, I already know where it's going with
Oh, I
that.
know.
Because we've had this discussion
Yeah,
a
yeah,
couple times. Yeah.
I'm in a whole nother room.
Subspace travel due to fungus.
Mushroom warp.
It's all around us. We just can't see it.
And not only is it subspace travel due to fungus, they wanted to make it seem more scientific, so they came up with a Latin name for it. And if you do a little research, you'll find out the Latin name is called prototaxi.
Prototaxi mycelia, I think.
Isn't Isn't Utah? Aren't they pioneering subspace travel right now? Isn't that one of the laws they got on the books?
It's Indiana. It's
Well,
what's
so one thing that I was able to take, and
Well,
yes,
that's
that
what
whole
you
concept is
Pay
slightly
for with your
ridiculous.
Mormon
The
dues,
one
right?
thing I was able to take like comfort in is the fact that they try and explain it with the whole like multiverse theory kind of thing. Is that like this is kind of part of the multiverse thing? It's like, oh, okay, whatever. You know, yes, it's hand wavy sci-fi nonsense, but so is reversing the polarity of the neutron flow or whatever. You know,
So is
yeah.
transwarp conduits.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
yeah. So
it's this series' like hand wavy warp technology.
Yeah, yeah,
It's they've all done it.
Yeah.
So without
at least it's still not as bad as the we can warp literally anywhere we want from the more recent movies. That just
I blame Battlestar Galactica, like the remake from like 2004 or whatever.
Yeah.
Ever since then, these type of shows have showed up because Battlestar Galactica was so huge and it was focused like that.
Yeah.
And plus they had like instant jump from place to place.
Yeah, but they did also have to charge it up.
Call
and-
that fast.
Right. But
yeah.
But at least it had a
the
limitation.
last couple
In
seasons of Game of
Discovery,
Thrones, they
it's
very
literally
clearly
just
had fast travel
blip.
enabled.
And they can do it
there's
whenever
like
the hell
a
they
dude
want.
in like a little
Yeah.
container
A
down
dude
in
in
the
the
clearing,
Yeah.
making a grunting noise.
With an
and you
IV
get
in his arm, yeah. And it's like, dude in the container's got a grunt, and then you can teleport wherever the hell you want. And it's going to kill him, but just keep doing it over and over and over again, and he never dies. Sure, why not? I hate that show.
But he
So-
turns dark.
It's terrible.
So we've spent like 45 minutes focusing on one question that Jefferson asked.
That's how these go, man.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Have you never played D&D?
Segued itself into.
around right here.
I think it segued itself into multiple avenues.
Yeah, it did.
Well, I mean, overall, I think what Jefferson basically has is, I think the purpose of this is to have the free flow conversation. I think from Jefferson's standpoint, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he just has a few questions to help jog the conversation if it stalls. So I don't think I would get too worried about that unless Jefferson said otherwise.
Absolutely, because I'm still trying to figure out this crap with Facebook on how to. I watch live videos all
Oh, is
the
that
time.
why you're so
but-
quiet? Yeah.
Right, it's killing me.
Did you
Like,
click
this-
on the Russian flag?
Well, we're
live.
recording though.
It
Right?
can't be this.
Yeah, we got the audio going.
Yeah, at least we're recording. Like, do
It
you
can't
have
be
the,
this hard.
is the
So it's
camera
an
recording
anime.
too?
The camera's recording.
So if nothing else, you could just like
We're
put the
live.
video out there.
Are we live?
Yeah, we're live.
How can you
are
tell?
we?
Because I'm watching it.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no, now we are.
How
Are you watching it in the
No, it was
future?
on my feed.
Whoa, look, it's delayed.
It's on your feed.
Yeah, it was on my feed, my Facebook.
What's the link? What's the link for it?
There's I don't know. Facebook.com/JeffersonKelly/videos/1021 1021918774914519 /
Will you share that
There
too?
we go. Yeah, I got it.
Facebook. God,
It's
Dang it.
the fourth revision.
I mean, it's stupid. Like, I know it should be easier than this, and we all work in IT, and I feel like I should be able to figure this out.
We've been live for 7 minutes. Good job.
Well, that's because I kept trying to like
No, I know.
do it again and try this. setting
I
and
don't.
do that.
I entirely believe you that Facebook is terrible.
It's terrible.
Yes, I hate to say it.
So next time I'm going to do this via Twitch.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
there
there you
it
go.
is. Twitch.
I can confirm that there are 2 people watching. Oh, now there's 3.
Is it us?
We're watching
Oh, right,
ourselves.
yeah.
2 of them are Mike and myself.
Oh, this turned off. We're not recording.
What?
We're not recording.
Mike.
Alt mic.
That's
It just died. I
is
think,
that is that called like masturbatory streaming? Is that what that is?
I'm glad we didn't catch that. That's good. Now it's on again, and it just turned off. We need a charger.
Okay. Yep. Well, I got
This is
that.
sort of
You got
what
a
this
mini
would
USB
always sort of
device.
show up with AV
Ow.
equipment and just
You're
try
right.
to
The
make it
equipment
work.
shut down on us.
Uh-oh. Got a purchase?
Mini USB.
Well, don't worry, guys. If you like it, we'll make sure that we're more prepared.
It
next
does
time.
need charged.
So while we're trying to fix some technical difficulties,
I'm going to turn that down.
I was just, you said it died. I was checking for sound. And
Well, this is recording separately.
Well, except for now, because
The
isn't that
Well,
dead?
it was recording separately.
and I was eating. No.
So what you're saying
it's
is
not
now's a
that
good
bad.
time to
Stop
go
it.
get
No,
ice?
it's not
Yeah, I
that
think
bad. Let me get that. I even asked him. I said, "Do I need batteries?" No, you're good. You're not gonna need batteries.
Wait,
It's
you're
fine.
you're good.
Who said
I think you may have assumed you were going to plug it in.
Having technical issues and just like post it right in front of the camera.
Well, it's okay.
Get the music going on my phone.
Let's go to the next topic while we're trying to.
Let me play play the
Sorry,
Mass
solve
Effect
this
elevator scene? Mass Effect 1, we're in an elevator, it's going to take like 10 minutes.
Now it has
Because we're on the
officially
Xbox.
derailed.
Wait, tracks?
I
That's
think
probably
there
really loud.
was at one point.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh wait, that's that mic, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, so
Yes.
what is that?
That's
Yes.
the Mass Effect 1 elevator.
Yes.
So they had like these hilariously long elevators because they were loading more content because the game engine wasn't ready when they released the game.
Right.
So yeah, you just listen to that for like 3 minutes while your game loaded. Sit in an elevator.
Now, I'm sure that was probably
It's great.
okay.
This is going to be the best podcast ever.
Okay. I like it.
Professional,
Best.
right here.
Are we recording again on that?
I'm waiting for it to do its thing. I think
I
it
had
completely
a-
died, so we
I
probably
had
have to
a-
reset it up.
I had a plug-in.
Oh, SD card reader. Yeah.
Take it back to big
Oh, nope. Definitely don't want to do that. There we go.
What did that do?
He just launched a torpedo.
No, I
He just launched a torpedo.
I put it on card reader mode, so it was
Would you like to
Because you're
play
just
a
like, oh
game?
no.
To play a game.
Nothing.
Okay, so everyone remember when I said
Recording.
this was probably going to go off the rails? So,
Assuming it's on the road.
right, it was on the rails. Okay, so
At what point?
I think we've done pretty good
Half the
about
podcast
keeping
is
it on
left.
the rails.
Actually, it's not
technical
quite half.
crisis,
We'll be right
crisis averted.
We diverted power.
We had to divert power. Yeah.
From the forward cells to
Console
the.
doesn't explode because that is really inconvenient.
Well, I mean,
Wait, did we ever identify the ensign?
which ensign?
The ensign for this podcast?
Right. Ensign, red shirt, you know.
I think I might be the red shirt.
Ooh.
Yeah, because I kept telling myself, bring batteries. Nothing lasts forever, and
Just so you know, you're going to be part of the away party that does not make it back.
So we borrowed some equipment from our coworker Al, and the batteries died on us. So I think we should put him through the Klingon paint sticks. Would that be appropriate?
I think that is definitely appropriate.
Okay. So we'll do the paint sticks. So yeah, I need to assign someone to help us figure out the Facebook Live thing, which apparently it's kind of working, sort of working, not working the way I thought, and it's just I hate Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg, you suck. Okay, so going on to
Oh, look at that. Our live feed is now offline.
it's now blank, it's gone.
So
Look at
listening
that.
for keywords, and you just said it.
Yeah.
Okay, so and here's the next thing I want to. Sorry, I'm zipping back up my tool bag. I had something here that I wanted to talk to you guys about because we kind of touched on this earlier, and it's about the issues that Star Trek takes that was of the time and turns that into either a movie or an episode. And I think the biggest one that I like was Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. And back then at the time, let's see, when was that released? 91?
I can confirm here real quick.
Yeah. And it was the US and Russia just completely in regards to the Cold War. Big accident happens with the Klingons, and they're ready to start talking.
Yeah, 91.
91, okay.
Yeah.
They're ready to start talking peace and end the hostilities. So that's the thing I'm going to get into now is just the real life, the real world aspect of what Star Trek has tackled. For example, drugs and addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Several episodes on that. There's Symbiosis from TNG. The game, that was the game addiction. So
I love that episode.
yeah. So that's the part I'd like to get into is how Star Trek, and it doesn't seem like Discovery is really doing that, which I believe that might be.
I think that's part of the Star Trek magic.
The episodic.
Even going back to the original series, first on-screen interracial kiss.
Yes.
The
First
the first time, the first
Green
time
lady.
where you actually had a minority in a show that actually held something other than an extremely small derogatory bit part.
Mhm.
You know,
Did you know the backstory
Lieutenant.
behind that William Shatner continued to screw up
yep,
that scene?
and kept doing it
kept
because
doing it, kept doing it.
because the producers hated that scene.
Yes.
They
yes.
didn't like it. They didn't think it was appropriate, so he kept screwing it up, basically just to stick it to him.
Yep. Yep.
So
And they had to give up.
Yeah,
and just do it.
because at first they didn't want to do it, and at first Michelle actually wanted to back down from it too, but she, being friends with Oprah, had talked with her, and she was like, "No, go ahead and go for it." And God loves Shatner, but yeah, he did what was right. I will say he did what was right, but
He knew it was in the fucking box.
yeah. He did. But no, I think that's what the big success is, and I think that's what ties everything together. So remember me going back and saying that the reason that people hate on Star Trek is because they develop that love for the characters. They have that
Yes.
attachment.
Yes.
That's what it is, because it builds from that social commentary. They see those characters going through what they are going through or what their thoughts are. I can't tell you the number of times that, TNG, as that was coming through, where, I'm starting to understand what's going on in the news. I'm seeing all these things. I don't quite understand what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But I'm able to make the analogy. I'm able to make that connection between something that's going on, between Picard and Riker, or Data and Riker, or, whoever's involved with it. There's always something that comes on. And that's the best part is, as you mentioned before, the episode, The Game, loved video games, scared the crap out of me, and it made me think. It made me think, how much time am I spending? Is this
Playing
really
video
what,
games.
is this really what I should be doing? So, at that point, that just hooked me in even more, because it's not just a TV show. It's not just, and that's why why Star Trek, when they find their footing, why the series goes on for 7, 8, 9 seasons.
Well, with TNG specifically, the episode where they hold the trial over whether or not Data is a person.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Dude, how many sci-fi shows will make you want to go back and read like American history?
Right.
About and
Yeah.
it's insane. Like the civil about the civil rights movement and
Yep.
the Civil War and abolition of slavery and stuff like that. There's so many parallels there. And when I watched that episode, I literally went back to like my history book, my textbook from history class, and like started reading chapters again.
Yeah.
So the big one for me was the DS9 episode where O'Brien's wife is teaching the wormhole aliens, and the Bajorans are freaking out. They're like, no, they're gods. I mean, that was so before its time. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna disagree with something that I think you said
Mhm.
regarding Discovery. You said it doesn't seem to have any commentary and stuff like
Well,
that.
I probably misspoke. To me, it feels like it does not have the kind of commentary that everything else had.
So I think it does on one subject,
Okay.
because I noticed it. They did it with, what is the guy's name? Oh God, I cannot remember the character's name. I'm blanking on it. But they did it with. They thought they were going that direction with Lorca, but I think they tried to do something on PTSD. Because if you look, there are several characters
Okay.
dealing with some very horrible things in that show, especially, and I cannot remember the guy's name.
Talking about the doctor that died and came back.
No.
that
I'm
guy?
talking about the guy who was captured by the Klingons.
Oh.
What is that guy's name? That
Yeah.
like when they first introduced
Tyler,
that story,
Ash
Tyler, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, so Tyler and Lorca, when I was watching that show the first time, I went, oh, okay, that's the theme of this show is PTSD. And honestly, I feel like they tackled that pretty well. It's like they did a red herring with Lorca because you were like, oh, he's got PTSD. Well, no, he doesn't. But Tyler sure as hell did. Like, no question. Like, they did that. And I feel like they tried to do it. I don't think they did as good of a job as they could have, but they tried with that. And I appreciated that. I thought that was a nice touch.
So
Yes.
when you brought up the whole, see, this is one of my issues with Discovery, is that when you brought that up,
Mm.
I thought you were going to talk about Spock and the horrible thing that Michael Burnham did.
Mm.
And it's like, she
Mhm.
literally just told him to fuck off.
Right,
That's
yeah,
all it
basically.
was. She was like, yeah, go away. I don't like you anymore.
Well,
And
that's
that was-
true.
And like, they spent episodes focusing on the horrible, horrible thing that
Well, yeah,
Michael
no.
did to Spock.
Well,
It's like,
but if you look at that from another angle, she literally shaped him for the rest of his life with that action.
She did.
She did. And no, because if you look at that, like he was all like, "I'm going to be your sister, and you're going to love me," and then she was like, "Go away,"
he's so barely
and that's
there.
what he did for the rest of his life. Now, yeah, they could have handled that a little bit better, but I thought it was an interesting touch. So, yeah, and I know you and I fundamentally disagree on that show, but it's that's part of the interesting thing of it is that there's so many different versions of this franchise now.
Like
You're not going to like all of them.
the first officer, I don't remember his name, the crazy
Saru.
Saru, yeah. A lot of the stuff they did with his character I thought was fantastic.
Yeah.
Like it's the thing about that show is that there's so much good about it, and there's so much stuff that just bothers me to the core. But
Oh yeah,
like Saru and the whole character, the whole thing about how like he's his entire race has been told from the very beginning that they were prey.
Yeah.
That they were specific.
Mhm.
They were basically cattle.
Yeah.
Just waiting to die to be fed to the other guys. I don't remember the name.
yeah, I don't know either.
But it actually, ages ago was actually the other way around. Like that was ingenious. That was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
But then they do stupid stuff like Spock being mad at Michael.
Well, and I honestly think that's why they did the time jump thing, because they suddenly realized that like we can't keep screwing with these events and characters that are so well established.
Please.
So here's the real question, though: is Discovery targeted towards you,
No.
or a different audience?
It's obviously not targeted towards me.
Yeah. And I think
And
that's
this kind of leads into what Jefferson brought up before.
Yeah.
About I don't want to say necessarily the hate, because it means you mentioned there's parts that you love, parts that they haven't. You don't think they succeeded for.
It's
so.
few and far between where I'm not entirely displeased with that show, but I
Which
get
says
it.
something about his character.
What?
You're a raging alcoholic.
I really hate mushrooms. You're right. That's exactly what it is.
Prototypes.
Right.
Prototype
Yeah,
taxi.
if you call Uber, you don't come.
Some mushrooms can be very enlightening.
I think the bad stuff in Discovery for me is just too bad to remain watching. Like I only got through the first half of the first season, and I'm like, I can't get through more of this.
Yeah. I watched everything that has come out because John kept insisting that it gets better. And
I thought you would like it. In my
It
defense, I thought you would like it.
Well, so but
It never
Discovery
did.
is season 3, right?
Season 3 comes out in January, if I
Okay,
remember.
so because I had this conversation with Jefferson separately. So myself being TOS and TNG, when DS9 first came out, I didn't think it had the same kind of flair to it. I didn't think it had the same kind of pull. I'm like, okay, there's a bunch of people that are stranded on a space station. Okay, whatever. Yeah, they have to It felt forced. They have to interact because they're on an outpost.
Yeah.
They can't go out and travel. So my interest in that waned pretty early on.
Mhm.
But then Jefferson enlightened me that after the third season things pick up. They start getting off the station. They start doing more interactive things, and DS9 is fantastic.
Yeah.
So
especially when Dominion War kicks up.
Yeah.
When that
So
happens,
the trouble
yeah.
comes to them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right, right.
And
So DS9 really grew the beard when it's I can't decide when DS9 grew the beard. It's either when Cisco went bald with the goatee. He did the goatee, but he still had the hair. Last couple.
And I'm assuming you know the
episodes.
story behind that too.
Yeah, yes, I do. I'll
Which
get
is
to that in just a
ridiculous.
second.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
And then when Worf steps on to DS9, like that
Yeah.
was badass. But the part about Avery Brooks, so it was, and there was another podcast episode where I was talking about this and made this point, and I messed up the series. It was what was the name of the show he was on? I've done this twice, but basically there was. It was not ER.
I know what you're thinking of too, and I'm also blanking on the name.
Right. A man called Hawk. Man
I
named
think
Hawk?
so.
Yes,
Hawk,
yes. Yeah, he played Hawk. That's right.
So he had the goatee, shaved head goatee, and when he was coming on to DS9, they did not want him to have that look because he had that in that previous show. So they in I Receive and Bear, Well, no, he wasn't on DS9 by that point, but the producers were trying to push for, this is how we picture this role. This is what we want. We want this strong black character to have the goatee and the no hair. But they said, no, we need to separate from this show he was just in, where that was his look. So he had to, shave it, have the hair. But they kept pushing, kept fighting. So this is what we need to have for him, for this character. And John's right, that they finally did that. But that was the reason, was because of the separating that look from the other show.
Yeah.
I tell you, in my mind though, Benjamin Sisko is still bald head, goatee.
Bald head,
Yeah.
goatee. Yes. There was no other look for him.
Didn't that sync up when he became an actual captain as opposed to a commander? Or
I thought it was before that.
Okay.
He was still a commander when he started doing that.
Yeah.
He did not go a totally shaved head until the start of season 4,
That's right.
which was Way of the Warrior,
Yeah.
2-part episode. So he started that with the shaved head, but he started the goatee. He had the goatee in definitely the last episode of season 3, maybe the last 2.
Yeah, I have to rewatch it.
I
It's been
think
a while.
I just
Little known
rewatched a
fact,
couple.
though, actually, the reason that he went bald was when they were filming, there was a warp core breach,
Mhm.
and he lost all his hair.
The radiation.
Singed off from the radiation.
Was it the
Yeah.
Yeah, all
Aileron-
the
aileron
plasma
radiation?
settled
Yeah.
on the lower part of the floor, and he just happened to be hanging upside down at the time,
Right.
and just fell into it, just the top of his head.
Mm-hmm. Well, and as a man with no hair and a goatee, it shifted down. So
Got the Cisco going.
yeah. Well, here I'll show everyone.
I mean, to be fair, you rocked the Cisco look pretty well.
Well, okay, yeah, and I had to shave also today, so yeah, so I'm rocking the
Just to
Cisco
illustrate
look,
the point.
right?
Yeah.
Because here we go. Rocking the Cisco
You
look.
might got released from the
He-
wormhole.
He might
Right,
have
Sisko's
went
my
for
spirit
Kardashian,
animal.
but
You
he's
gotta lean over
actually
more.
human.
Just go all the way back.
all the way back.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you need a wide lens. for
And
You're too tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, there you go.
It's the height.
were good.
I can't help it.
No,
Yeah, you were
good.
You were good a minute
Do
ago.
I need to lean down?
I don't know. You probably do.
Kind of like that.
We're also like 30
Delay.
seconds in the past. Yeah. So you can't really tell.
Now we just see your gigantic black text.
Yeah.
My gigantic what?
Black text.
Eliminate the censor button.
Well, yeah. Where's the censor button?
I mean, there's something else.
This is like having Carlin on
That's not
SNL.
what I was paying attention to.
Right?
Yeah, if we haven't told you yet, this is an adult live
Yeah.
podcast. Well, I'm glad we're streaming now,
I've
so
been
apparently
clean
it's
so far.
working.
Yeah.
Okay, so and that's what practice is for, because God, I swear Facebook it's just a pain in the
It's farce book.
damn ass. Okay, so
In the damn ass.
So cute.
So I think the base of it is, it all comes down to personal preference.
Yes.
Taste is not the same for me or anybody else at this table. I will defend Star Trek Nemesis till the day I die. There are people that despise that movie with a
bad.
passion. Yeah, I will fight you over that.
Remember at the very
There's
beginning
some
when we
good
said
stuff
some
in
people are
there.
just
Like,
wrong?
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
20 to 30% good stuff. But the
Yeah,
bad stuff
Aileron
is real bad.
radiation.
So I mean, I know people who got into Star Trek because of the JJ movies.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
like
yes,
they
that is
love
true.
those movies, but
Yeah.
it did get them into the other stuff too. So at the end of the day, I guess
Yeah,
it
how-
still works.
Yeah, how much does it matter?
And it's all uphill from there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. They do not. So yeah, like
And again, I think that just goes back and just is a testament to Star Trek itself. The
Mhm.
fact that, you have people from all different walks of life, people from all different ages, all different lifestyles that get pulled in.
and that's the sign of a good, just I guess franchise, like character, however you want to say it, like is being able to every generation, every like time, it just pulls in a new audience every
Yeah.
time, and that's impressive.
I mean, my life goal is a two-fisted Orn, but
There are several ways to take that.
Wow. So
Never thought of it that way.
The fan film Trekkies.
Yes,
If you ever
Trekkies.
see an assortment of colorful characters, please
So-
watch that.
So here's
It
the
is
thing.
incredible.
Like Trekkies was a mixed bag for me because overall I enjoyed it, but I do feel like the filmmakers were in their own way making fun of these people, and that did bother me. I think a better Trek documentary was the one with Eugene Roddenberry with Gene's son, and I'm blanking on the name of it.
I can't think of the name, but I've seen it.
This is
Trek
Spinal
Nation.
Tap.
Yes. No, it was Trek Nation. It was
John
called.
Lennon?
That was amazing because he talked to George Lucas.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that.
Like he, yeah,
They
and
ended up talking to JJ too, right?
that's right, yeah. And being Gene Roddenberry's son, he had a very, special connection with that man, and he did not shine a light on him like, look at this amazing person he was. Like he talked about the bad stuff. He was like, yeah, he cheated on my mom constantly
He's a
and
man.
stuff like that. Yeah. And like, he did bad things, but he also did this thing that literally changed the world.
Yeah.
So
He did. It did. Because can you imagine what would it be like if we didn't have Star Trek? So just
We wouldn't be
picture
doing this podcast.
wouldn't be doing the
right.
podcast.
Wouldn't be doing that.
Cell
Cell
phones,
phones,
probably.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one.
I mean, hell, the Motorola logo looks like two Starfleet symbols.
So speaking of the cell phones, who else in here? I hope I'm not the only one. But when the iPhone first came out and they started talking about how it could track your health and your heart rate and doing all the health stuff,
Yeah.
the first thing you thought of was a tricorder.
Well, they're
Yes.
developing medical tricorders now,
Yeah,
or at least
dude.
they're trying to.
Okay, the reason I own a Google Home
Yeah, it is.
is because I
Never
plan
else.
on hooking up some sort of like coffee maker or something to it, so that one day I can come home and say, "Computer, tea, Earl Grey, hot." That is the nerd fantasy for me.
Pretty sure you can get an Amazon Alexa to do that.
I can, yeah. So I need to switch brands, basically. But yeah, no,
No,
that's
there's an
Whenever I
API
do that,
for
the
it.
wife
Yeah.
typically throws something at me.
but yeah, no,
Yeah,
and I even like Earl
What?
Grey. Yeah.
Tea, Earl Grey. Hot.
Hey,
Jesus.
she kicked my chair. I know.
I know. I'm asking you for a kick.
I mean,
Or
Massive.
there's something in the window. You're lucky.
Go and put a cow on.
Now,
Talk about the
here's-
Orville now.
Yeah,
There's-
and how it's like it's the spiritual successor to Star Trek.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's got, Seth MacFarlane's interesting humor, which some people absolutely despise.
Can you open this jar of pickles for me?
I
I know, like that whole thing is.
I like you even more.
Yeah.
We got to all admit, like, there have been some really awesome Orville episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Like stuff,
There have
even
been.
stuff that
Yeah.
wasn't rehashed of Star Trek.
Oh,
it
yeah.
just was out of left field. Like, I
Mhm.
can't believe they just did that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I feel like you're mispronouncing Galaxy Quest.
Yes.
Galaxy Quest. Galaxy Quest is huge.
No, you
Awesome.
talked about people who dislike his sense of humor, and I absolutely can't stand his sense of humor.
Yeah,
How you're
I'm
feeling
not a
right
huge
now
fan
is
either,
how
but
I feel about what I've seen so far of Discovery.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, and I won't begrudge you that. Like it's personal taste. Yeah, without a doubt.
but we all love Next Generation and DS9, right?
Absolutely.
But
So what
because-
are the favorites? Is the gold standard TOS, TNG, and maybe DS9? Because DS9 really.
DS9 was great.
Yeah, I know it was great. It was great. I love DS9, but it was ahead of its time. And the reason I say that is because of the serialized storytelling. And that was fought over
Mhm.
with the producers. They did not want that.
Well, that's why they broke it up.
Because Roddenberry.
And honestly, that's all they needed. That's
Yeah.
all that Discovery needed to do. All that Discovery needed to do to get that Star Trek feel is break up the serialized storytelling. If you broke it up every once in a while with a monster of the week, or just like
Like
totally
a
separate,
week or
yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
I feel like they couldn't
Broke it
because of the
up.
streaming
Yeah.
aspect of it.
Yeah, well,
They didn't
I know.
at the time.
But especially because how many episodes are there in a season? Like 10?
Yeah.
It's like no,
So I think
Action movie time.
Yeah.
from the standpoint, so we're an older crowd. So I think that order that you specified is probably accurate. TOS, TNG, DS9. I think for the most part. I guess my question is Voyager.
I watched all of it.
Yeah, I watched
Yeah.
Voyager.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I watched
a lot of people just can't get through it. But yeah, I mean, it's not that bad.
Okay. And that's what, because I've heard, so from my standpoint, from what I've heard, when I ask people about, Star Trek, is I tend to hear, favorable things. Either TNG is their favorite, followed by TOS, then DS9, or something else. But very rarely do I hear anybody say anything about Voyager. and that's say neither good nor bad.
Yeah.
So my question is, what just in general, what is everyone's thought on Voyager?
Janeway is the same.
Yeah, it's
Janeway is
a fuck
Yeah.
up.
a nut job, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, so is Cisco.
So
Well,
Yeah.
he's very targeted insanity.
Yes.
I
Janeway's all
overall
over the
liked Voyager. I feel like in my opinion, the biggest sin that Voyager committed was they kind of defanged the Borg.
They did.
Yeah.
That was horrible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They defanged the Borg.
They took what Gene Roddenberry himself essentially made as the ultimate enemy of the Federation because they're
Yes.
the polar opposite. They take away your individuality.
Well,
It's gone.
going back to what Mike said
Kind of
earlier,
had to, or they wouldn't have a show. I mean,
Yeah.
and
quick.
that was the best thing about the Borg is going back to what Mike was saying. It's or maybe it was you, like the Cold War times.
Yeah.
The Borg, communism. Your
Well, 'cause back in the day, it was the Klingons.
your individuality
Yeah.
is removed.
Yeah.
It's not
Back in the day, it was
used.
black people, actually.
Yeah.
Excellent. Jefferson has left the room. Let's get
Yeah.
this on the road.
Yeah. Racism start. Yeah. no.
You do realize that Jason Black is black.
Oddly enough, yeah.
Okay.
Though I am my predominant. If you want to go by, I'm Scottish.
Nice. All right.
Obviously.
The Highlander over here.
It's fantastic. No one ever gets that one. Which always makes it funny though. You've seen those. Is a Geico commercial like back in the day where it's like, oh, you never seen Scotch Korean? Yeah, well, it's like I can kind of relate to that.
So what is like everybody's ranking of their favorite Star Trek? Like if you rank the top
So we're
So-
talking shows.
So for
TV
me,
shows, not
okay.
movies.
So for me, original series, because I've told Jefferson this multiple times. I don't know if everybody else is aware, but when my kids were like 3 and 4, so when the twins were like 3 or 4, obviously the youngest one wasn't able to watch at that point. But when they were 3 or 4, couldn't get them to sit still for a moment. But original series came back on Netflix. I'm like, oh yeah, let me get on this. I turned it on. My kids sat still for the full hour, sat next to me on the couch, and watched it without making a peep, without moving, the entire show.
Wow.
And not just for one episode, but consistently. So for me, that's one of the things that makes Star Trek extremely special to me, is the fact that
Your kids shut up.
quiet time.
Sounds like.
So
Gladiators at my house that did that.
So I grew up as an only child from a single parent household, and Star Trek was one of the things that, my mom, she was born in the 50s, so she grew up during the Civil Rights era, and Star Trek was one of the things that she was actually proud of because of, as I mentioned before, the interracial aspect, the fact that everyone was treated as equal.
Mhm.
And that developed a bond between myself and my mom. We went to, back in the 80s, there was a Trek convention at the Sheridanville Convention Center. And I remember meeting, I met Shatner, I met Michelle, I met a number of people there. And that's one of the things in my mind that still sets in, is that even outside of that, these people embodied their characters. And just overall, I've said it before, but that's the thing that gets me the most about Star Trek, is that it imparts something in each person. Everybody that takes a look at it, everybody that sees it, they don't have to go far to find something, whether it's, Psycho Crazy Janeway, or
The war criminal?
yeah,
Yeah.
or,
Insane.
DeForester Kelly, just drinking whatever he wants to drink and just saying screw everybody, but still has that heart to look out for everybody. It's one of those things where, and that's why I really like the fact that we're doing this overall roundtable, is that, we've got people from, that have come in at different points, people that have seen it from different walks of life, and it still makes sense.
Okay, so you mentioned the civil rights movement, Nichelle Nichols, who played Uhura, and do you know the backstory behind Nichelle Nichols wanting to leave Star Trek and talk to Martin Luther King Jr., and he told her that this is too important for us as a race.
Mhm.
It's very special because this is showing that in the future, that a minority, an African American woman, has a position on the bridge of a futuristic organization.
Senior officer.
Yeah, senior officer, because there will be a time that she would have taken command. It just depends. She was in the hierarchy of the command structure, and he told her that this is different from all the other roles that minorities have had when it comes to the cook, the help, the nanny, et cetera, and just told her, you can't do this because you have opened a door, and she really did. Can you imagine if she would have gone through with that, or if he didn't talk to her about that?
Well, the other thing that I want to emphasize on that as well is the cast that was on the original series. They very much, Kirk, Shatner could have very well backed down, like, she's black. I'm not going to kiss her. I don't want to interact with her.
Right.
I don't want to have, but they understood the premise. They had their moral compass to begin with before the show.
He could have folded and said, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to fight it. But he stood up for that idea.
Right.
And Shatner now is kind of like a legendary figure in
absolutely
cinematography. When he was on Star Trek, he was kind of still a nobody.
Yep.
Yes.
He'd done a couple episodes of, was it Outer Limits or
Outer
Limits. Twilight
Zone.
Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone. Yeah.
He'd done a few episodes of like Twilight Zone, and that was kind of like it. And so
He's a big stage actor. But
exactly.
Yeah.
But and he, back then, even sharing the screen with a black woman that was in a position of power could have been very detrimental to his career.
Yes.
Not even interracial kiss or whatever.
No, just the fact,
Just sharing a screen with her could have been detrimental to his career. And in hindsight, knowing who William Shatner and most of the rest of the cast is now, every single one of them is pretty much a civil rights advocate. But you didn't know that back then.
Right.
It really is. It's saying a lot just that they would be on the show back then.
Yeah.
With her. So it's crazy.
Think that it was them making that conscious decision, or do you
Absolutely.
think that was them
Absolutely, yeah.
being in that position and then saying, you know what, this is right, I'm going to embrace this?
Oh, so maybe they didn't have that mindset going into it,
Right.
is what you're saying.
That's
a good question.
Maybe
Some of this, some of that. Yeah.
maybe some of the cast, but from the interviews that I've heard from Shatner and a lot of the other people, so Nimoy and all the they just, my impression is that they just inherently knew.
Yeah.
But there was no issue with that, and I honestly think that they saw the opportunity in that and helped form it into what it was. They made sure that she had a chance to speak. They made sure that when the attention was on her, there were no distractions. There was no downplay of her role. I think they really helped build her up that, she is a part of the team. She's a part of the crew, and her role is important. For me, it really solidified the ideals of the Federation.
Yeah.
That this is our job. This is what we're doing. The violence of humanity is in the past. The stereotypes, the prejudice, we have evolved beyond that. And I think the TOS cast actually embodied that in a time that was probably the worst time to do that.
It's funny actually because in Galaxy Quest they make a joke about how what's her name?
Sigourney Weaver.
Sigourney Weaver,
Yeah.
thank you. Sigourney Weaver makes a joke about how her entire role on the ship is to just repeat what the computer says. It almost feels like that's a kind of a dig at Sigourney, at Nichelle Nichols' role, at Ahora's role because it kind of feels like that's what it's supposed to be, at least. But Uhura was much much more important.
Yes. Oh yes.
Like even in I can't remember which movie it is, but the one with I'm terrible with names right now. The one with Doc from
Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah, the one with Christopher Lloyd. Is
Oh,
the Search for Spock.
Star Trek 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, 3.
Star Trek 3.
Yeah.
Search for Spock, right? Yeah. Yeah, that like it's her job to like lie to the Klingons to try to keep just
Oh,
like
yeah.
and Kirk just entirely trusts her entirely to delay the Klingons long enough that they can, they do what they need to do or whatever.
Well, even at
It's
a more base level, just take the fact that she would she's coming, incoming transmission. She would repeat it, and then Kirk would analyze it, and then come back with something, and then she would interpret and give her opinion back, and he would accept it.
Yeah.
Not like a why are you talking? Like it wasn't a downplay of your role as communications officer is supposed to be just this.
Oh yeah.
It's supposed it, and again that helped develop her as a character, I think, independently of everything else.
Yeah.
And help show value. So like,
Yeah.
I
mean, she was the communications officer. Anything that came in or out of the Enterprise went through her.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, she was a huge part. And,
Oh, yeah.
and like that's why that line in Galaxy Quest always kind of confused me because I was like,
you don't really understand.
I don't know if I saw that as a dig at Nichelle Nichols as much as just a lot of sci-fi shows and stuff like that, like the way they treated female characters.
It wasn't
because if you know the
but-
story behind that, Sigourney Weaver had to fight for that role. Like literally did
Yeah.
because they didn't want to cast her because they were like, well, no, you're like
Yeah.
you're Ripley. Nobody's
Sci-fi
gonna believe.
badass woman.
Yeah, nobody's
Yeah.
gonna believe you as this like ditzy blonde, and she was like, no, I deserve this role. Like she had to fight for that, which I think is interesting. Is that and
Why
then-
did she have to fight for that? She was
well,
like,
because
natural.
apparently some of the producers, or I don't know who it was, but somebody in power was like, no, nobody's going to believe Ripley is this
Oh,
ditzy
for the
blonde.
love-
I guess they just don't know what
okay.
actors are. I'm not real sure, but
It's men writing women. That's what it is.
that's true. Well, no, so you, both of you brought up something that I think is one of the cores of any Star Trek. Whether it's one you like or dislike, or one from when we were kids, or one from now. Is that it's the idea of the individual is not capable as much as the team.
Yeah.
Like that is 100% at the core of every show, every movie, everything
Unless
we
you're
do.
Kirk.
Unless
Or
it's,
Picard in the movies.
and
Yeah.
this,
Right. Yeah, Picard in the movie.
yeah, that's true.
Action Man.
That's true. But that goes back to that's one of the because I remember the moment in Star Trek Into Darkness where I was like, I'm done with this movie.
When was that? What was the moment?
Because it goes against what I just mentioned. So it's the part where they bring those torpedoes on board and they're like, "Oh, shoot these at Kronos or whatever."
Right.
And Scotty is like, "Wait, what? I want to know what's in these. I'm going to take it apart." And Kirk goes, "No. Follow procedure." And then he kicks him off the ship.
Fires him. Yeah.
Fires him right then and there. I was done with that movie. I was like, that would never happen. I said, if anything, the way that scene should have played out is Kirk saying, "Oh yeah, no, that's fine." And then the moment those people left the ship, be like, "Tear that apart. I want to know what's in it." Like, because he would trust his crew more than the suits at Starfleet.
Especially Scotty
That
when it
part-
comes to that kind of
Especially
thing.
Scotty, yeah. That part of that movie, that's when I checked out. I was
Yeah.
like, whoever wrote this doesn't get it.
You're right, because
yeah.
Kirk would not just. I don't want to say he would not follow orders.
He would
but
make it seem like he followed them.
Yes, he wouldn't just dive into.
Yeah.
They told us to launch torpedoes. I'm going to launch torpedoes.
Yeah.
Well, you've also got to look at his mindset at the time. I mean, Pike was just killed.
Pike was just
He
killed.
his mentor, and Kirk is
He
not
wanted to
known
go
be
after Khan.
level-headed.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily agree with his actions, but I don't think he was in any state to be in command at the time.
Well, and then also, because like I remember when I finally rewatched that movie, I kept thinking, I was like, oh, it's going to be like, that's part of the plan. That was part of the play. No, he kicked Scotty off the ship. I was like, that's ridiculous. Like, whoever wrote this did not understand the core of what makes this franchise and didn't understand these characters, I felt like. So.
And the other part that was really a shame was that, and again, spoilers. So we've been doing spoiler reminders. all
Spoiled
the
so
time.
much stuff now. Yeah.
So the other thing, and this is kind of what bothered me about the new movies, was when I did a rewatch of the original series, there were 72 episodes across 3 seasons. And 71 of those was Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. One was a Scotty episode. That was Wolf in the Fold, where he got taken over by the what ended up being the alien that was Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
So it was literally 71 hours of this development of Kirk, Spock, and McCoy.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get into the J.J. Abrams movies, they were cashing in on what we remembered from TOS. You can tell, because if you go watch TOS right now, go all the way through, then watch those movies, and you're being taken for a ride of, well, we're going to take credit for all of that happened, and suddenly they're friends, great friends, after one day on the ship with this crisis, and it's harder to believe. Then we get to Into Darkness, and I think that they would have been better suited to flat out just say there was too much secrecy. And the problem with J.J. Abrams is he's great at building secrecy and questions with Alias. If you remember that show from
He's
the
good at building
90s,
them, just not
he's
paying
good
them
at
off.
Alias, Lost. He can build it up. He can't pay it off.
Yeah.
So what happened was building this whole mystery for no reason about this John Harrison character, and Carl Urban, who played McCoy in the new movies, was quoted as saying Benedict Cumberbatch's Gary Mitchell is really good. I'm kind of paraphrasing, something like that.
Yeah.
That would have been spectacular. Yes, Gary Mitchell from Where No Man Has Gone Before, the second pilot of TOS. They went to the galactic barrier. He got the godlike powers. That would have been perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But they decided to do this whole, he's in the in the brig, and he's telling his story, and my name is Khan. And the way he says it, he's saying that to us,
Yes.
to the fans. He's not saying that to Kirk,
No.
because Kirk is like,
And
who the hell are, okay,
Right? What?
yeah, who are you? I don't
Yeah.
know. And so that there was so much pandering there
Mm-hmm.
that they did, and I think that was part of the writers not understanding what they were writing and what they were doing, because that was the
Absolutely.
biggest piece of. I thought it was great. Like I'm leaning, I'm in the theater with my wife and the kids, and I'm leaning forward in my seat, like, oh my god,
Mhm.
and they're looking at me like, what's
Yeah.
And it's because he's talking to me,
Yeah.
not to Kirk and Spock.
Yeah.
Because the way he said it, and it's so awkward, like, my name is Khan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like they almost
Kirk's like,
like
okay.
And Kirk's like, okay, all right.
all the movies to me are basically they've ripped some cool parts out of like the series
Mhm.
and like shoved it into an action movie, and like
Yeah.
everybody's
Yeah.
running around in Star Trek universe in their uniforms, and they're acting like these characters,
Mhm.
and in some ways they nail them, but it just feels like it's a recreation just to make money.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
except
they're-
now
it's a
Vulcan
theme park
has
ride.
exploded.
Yeah.
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 But it's not Star Trek to me.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just action movie with Star Trek theme.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah, and in the first movie, they destroy the entire planet of Vulcan too.
Right.
Like
Well, that was ballsy. I mean, that was good.
that was ballsy and it was stupid.
Look
I'm
at it.
Well, so yeah, no, I mean, so I remember seeing that first movie in the theater, and I was pretty against it to begin with, but I remember leaving it saying, you know what, that was a decent sci-fi action movie.
Yes.
Yes.
It was not a good Star Trek movie.
Well, here's the
It would
problem.
have been great as a
I
Star
never
Wars
thought of
movie.
it as a Star Trek movie,
Right,
aside
well-
from the characters.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. It's because I really think that today's audience is looking more for the instant gratification, the pew pew, the action, and just we have to admit to ourselves that the concept of Star Trek does not apply to today's social media, instant gratification,
Yeah.
fast food audience that we have now. And a 24 episode
They are the
season.
ultimate fast food. They got replicators.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
instant food.
Right, instant food.
Not fast enough.
Wait, is there a theme ride for Star Trek?
There used to be.
So
At Kings Island, remember?
Well, I remember-
One was Paramount.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I wish I was a Star Trek fan at the time. Like when they had that, I'd appreciated it more.
I wish I'd had parents that would have taken me to
I remember it
that.
all the time. Like, wow, these
But then
guys
again,
are cool, but I had no idea who or what they were. But I look back and remember. I just wish I was a fan.
Yeah.
I wish it was still there.
Yeah.
It was cool.
So here's a topic that I would like to talk about. It's directed at Amber. So it's come on, guys. Yeah, really. This is what we're dealing with.
And that is why we like Amber.
Yes.
Right. If you're comfortable with it, if you're okay with it. So taking the series from the beginning to wherever you've seen now, want to get your opinion, your impression, your input on, because we talked about minorities, we talked about African Americans in TOS and all of Trek. The 60s for TOS was kind of, I guess, when it came to the portrayal of the women, was very 60s. It's just very 60s. So why don't you tell us about how what you have seen as the change, if there was a change in the portrayal of the female actresses and characters in Star Trek?
Absolutely. There was a huge change. I didn't even bother watching the original series because I just knew it would bother me. I just knew flat out. And even the first few episodes of Next Generation, the first few seasons of that, I was just like, why is this happening? Like, who's the chick in the skirt in the background and why?
See the dude in the skirt?
Well, but they had the dude in the scan.
So
But I mean, and it'd be different if they'd be going to like different colonies, right? Because they all have their own like little history and what they like to do. But to see it on the ship, it's like everything should be neutral, especially if they're working.
Right.
So I mean, they did get better. I want to
They
say
did.
like
Eventually,
3.5 to 4 seasons in, they started getting a lot better.
Mhm.
But those first 3 seasons, especially the first 1 season, really,
Mhm.
was just really rough.
and so
Maybe
the
that's
one thing
the
that I
time
want,
Roddenberry was involved.
yes, I was going to say.
Yeah.
It was.
yeah,
Mhm.
It absolutely was.
and the one thing that I want to point out too is that what a lot of people didn't realize, and the thing that I love too, again going back to the whole minority thing, with women being portrayed in Star Trek was, especially in TNG, you had these strong male characters, but you always had Beverly Crusher coming out and going, just so you know, I am the checks and balances to this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The only person with power on the ship to override the captain
Right.
was Beverly
Yeah,
Crusher.
was
And
a-
she
was a
brought
woman.
that up a lot.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a woman. And that's the thing that I like too, is that she constantly brought it up.
Yes.
And it was
Yes.
you know what?
Well,
I understand that things are going on, but just remember,
I will bench your ass.
So, Amber, quick question for you.
Counselor.
Have
Yeah,
you
right,
gotten
yeah.
to DS9
She
yet,
had
or are
a
you still on
very
TNG?
she had very
Strong.
I
common.
have
Even
watched
that's
2
why I said- that's why I like-
episodes of DS9.
Even
Okay.
Ryan,
That's it. That's all.
I was just
Working.
curious. Yeah.
They would really
Because-
use her for, consulting.
Because in my opinion, DS9 has some of the best female characters of
Yeah.
Star Trek.
Oh yeah, really.
Yeah.
Kira.
Kira,
So-
just Kira right there.
You know who I really liked from Next Gen was Incident Row.
Yes.
Yes.
Will
So-
Laren was
I really
amazing.
love
That's why you need
Yeah.
to watch DS9.
Yeah,
She's
she was
like-
a much bigger part of
So there's a character.
Really?
So you've seen 2 episodes of DS9, right? So if you remember, Major Kira is her name. That was originally going to be Ensign Rowe,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
I forget how or why that fell through. But they were like, well, we're still going to make her Bajoran and everything. I love that character so much because she is a badass, and unlike
Will
the
Laren.
vast majority of female characters in Star
Michelle
Trek,
Forbes.
they never tried to sexualize her.
Right.
I think the
Like-
reason why they didn't make her Row is because different writers, they'd have to pay that writer for that character. bring
Yeah,
it
I
back.
can't
There
remember
was
why.
that.
There was some
yeah,
weird
Michelle
stuff
Forbes
there.
did not want to continue.
Same with
Yeah.
like I forget his name, but remember the Next Generation episode where the cadets get in trouble for doing this stupid
Yes,
maneuver?
Paris.
Yes.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was going to be
Robert Duncan McNeil
Yeah,
played Locarno,
Yeah, something Caro or something weird.
Yeah, Locarno was the last name. What was his first name? Nicholas Locarno. And you're right, because when they were looking for a Tom Paris type, they were looking at different actors, and they settled on Robert Duncan McNeil. And literally, the part was written as if it was that character. But the problem was, in Voyager, if they had used if he had been Nicholas Locarno, they would have had to pay royalties to the writer that created the character on TNG, The Next Generation. So they didn't want to do that. They don't want to pay the royalties.
Yeah.
So instead of doing this, what would have been a spectacular extension of the character, they decided, well, screw you. We don't want to pay you for using this character every episode. So we're going to give him a different name, but have pretty much the same backstory.
Right, he was in the brig, basically.
Yeah, he was in on a prison in New Zealand.
Yeah.
So but that's I think that was a very much missed opportunity there.
Yeah. And actually, I think what you guys were talking about a second ago, with like a lot of the female characters, where it feels like, to me at least, from a white male's perspective, it feels like they Crusher did kind of exert a lot of authority just to remind everybody that she was basically number 2 on the ship.
She's ship mom.
Yeah, exactly.
The ship mom. Yeah.
She's space mom. But then Deanna Troi, there is one specific episode that jumps into my mind immediately, and it's when she takes over the bridge. And
Disaster. The TNG episode Disaster.
And she had no idea what she was doing.
Yeah, she had no idea what she was
idea.
doing, but there were a few points where she was like, no. She was like, you need to shut up because I'm running this shit.
She was in command.
Yeah. And there were a few points where she laid down the law.
Yeah.
And it was like,
Sent
wow,
Jordan
even
to
Deanna
bed.
Troi can be forceful. Yeah.
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 Oh,
And
well,
I-
yeah.
I think
she took the test
Jordan
or
going to the
whatever.
conduit,
Yeah.
and- yeah.
I think
She did
that
take the
that
test.
And then,
whole
did she get promoted
premise
after that?
was
She did get
That's-
promoted.
Yeah.
Okay.
underneath the entire theme, though. I mean, every time that Picard made any type of a diplomatic decision, it was
went to Deanna.
very, like, I'd say 75%
Well-
based upon her intuition and understanding
But,
the situation.
but going to that though, it was, if you pay attention, he goes to Deanna, or if he's down in the lounge, he's talking to Guinan,
Mhm.
or
Oh,
he's
yeah.
typically talking to a woman character
Mhm.
to get
For
their
advice.
Right.
Especially
I'd
when
go
it
to
comes to
Guinan
ethical
for advice.
things.
Yes.
Any
I mean,
kind of ethical
100
choice.
years old, why wouldn't you?
When Guinan talks, you listen.
Yeah. Oh god, yeah. No, you don't ignore what
You're
Guinan says.
right.
Because everybody gets a car.
Shut up.
You raise a very good point. I never thought of that. So more often than not, Picard went to
a female character.
Yeah.
Troy or Guinan.
He already knew the answer that Riker and Data and everyone else would give him. So he went to, and if you pay attention to all those situations where he went to those characters, were the situations to where, okay, typically earlier in the show something happened where they became compromised, but it was always a situation that involved something more than just logic.
But it's because the way those characters were written.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Like, they're kind of playing on the, well, women have, are more aware of their emotions and know that stuff.
Well, they are.
Says you.
The gender of the characters never come into play. It's their life experience and their positions
Yeah.
on the ship.
Yeah.
Like I would always go to the person who is most qualified to give me the best information.
Absolutely,
And roll gender.
Well, yeah, and gender, race, it doesn't matter. Who's qualified
Right.
to give you that advice and that information? And in TNG, when they did that, when Picard needed that, it wasn't the best person to talk to was Guinan, or the
Yeah.
best person to talk to was Troy. The best person to talk to was Riker. whoever was the one to talk to, that's what they did. They did
Right.
not put gender above any of that. And I think, and I hope you agree, Amber, is that when I need advice and I've got a question on anything or I need to figure out something, I talk to my wife. I ask her about it. I get her input on that because
Well, you are still married.
yes. Right. Well, because it's a different perspective because she is thinking about things that I am not thinking of because I'm a very global, big picture.
All right, in the chat, there's actually so
There's chat.
yeah.
There's chat.
Like,
What?
yeah, I've been
Should we
watching
be taking
it.
callers?
No, I've been watching it. So
It's probably for the best
So-
we don't.
Joe said they want to know our opinions of Dr. Pulaski, and
Okay.
Sheila said just ask about Bones because they're the same person, and I was like, holy crap, they are.
They are.
Yes,
They
Dr.
are.
Pulaski and Bones are the same friggin' character. Why do
Yes.
I hate Dr. Pulaski so much?
They wanted to do a new Bones.
I don't know. Yeah.
Because she was a
Because you're
placeholder.
sexist and you don't like women.
Apparently.
You don't like
Wow.
women?
Yeah.
She was great. You got to.
I need something to throw. Like,
I
She
didn't
was,
necessarily
yeah.
disagree with everything that she did, or agreed with it, but the way that she, I don't know, acted the part or the way it was written, she was just very great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not like. I think I more didn't like the actress than I didn't like the character.
Wait, Amber,
Um,
did you just say you liked her?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
now
didn't
wait.
like her either.
Now, I think a lot of us here did not. I'm dead serious. I want to hear
I
this.
liked her.
Yeah, I want to hear more
Why?
on this. Yeah,
Why?
because it's like I want to hear why you liked her. I'm just curious.
I just did.
Please
I
tell
don't
us.
know.
No, what
Yeah, was
what
it-
did you like about Pulaski?
Well, she had a strong personality. Obviously.
I don't know. I mean, she said what she thought. She's like, this is how I feel about it, and
Yeah, she didn't hold nothing back.
yeah, I don't know.
And here's why I asked that, because when they first introduced her, I was still a kid watching that, obviously, but I remember I was like, man, who is this chick? She's not. But the episode that made me kind of like her a little bit was the one, and I can't remember the name of it. It was like they had like the cryogenically frozen guy, and she takes him into the shuttle and like thaws him or whatever, and she's like, oh yeah, everything's fine, and then she gets this like horrible disease or whatever, and but like I like the fact that she was like so adamant that she was right, and then later on was like, nope, I screwed up and I did something wrong, and it kind of goes to something that he just made me realize talking about it. I never noticed this until just now, but that's probably one of the reasons I like Picard so much as a character,
Yeah.
just a heroic character in general, is he didn't consider himself the end all be all.
Right.
He
Okay.
asked people.
He acknowledged.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
acknowledged that his decisions aren't only his; they impact everyone.
Yes.
And that's the big thing. And that's
I don't think I ever
True
thought about
leader.
that until
Yeah.
you just said that.
Not to
Yeah.
mention, the Enterprise had like what 1,000 something
Yeah.
colonists
Yeah.
or civilians.
He was responsible for a lot of lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1,200 lives, only like
Which
half of which
why
were
the hell would they have them on on a ship of exploration? Just like,
Right. It wasn't really a ship of exploration. I feel like most of the time it was some catastrophe they were involved in. Then again, it's a TV show. It'd be kind
Yeah.
of boring
It
if
was
they were just flying around.
Every
crew.
every
was
episode they were
involved.
coming back from or going to some diplomatic
That is
thing.
true.
Yeah.
That is
It's
true.
like what exploration you're like.
Well,
that's
they're
not-
cutting it all out because it's just it's very boring, probably.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
here's
So
why
let's
fair.
get into the good stuff. Here's all the disasters.
So here's why I think they did that, and this is just I have pretty much nothing to base this on. This is just a personal theory, which is
We don't
feel-
need facts here.
Yeah, right. So Roddenberry, if I remember right, was
Remember
he
Data?
Air Force? I know he served.
Yeah.
He did.
That's
and-
where
yes, he did.
that's where he
And
came
so, like anybody having a lot of friends who have been or currently are in the military, the hardest part is being away from those you love.
Mhm.
So I'm sure he looked at that and said, "How can I make this more utopian, more good?" And he said, "Oh, these explorers bring their families with them." So I kind of understand that. Yes, from a logistics standpoint, doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I think that's probably why he went that route.
Yeah.
Is because he probably thought back to when he served and said, "You know what? I wish I could have gone home to family or
Yeah.
something,
Well, I think
rather
part
than
Part of it was
a
the ship.
god,
The ship was big enough. The ship was big enough to
Exactly.
hold a city's worth of people,
Right.
essentially.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's like, it was like, why not?
Yeah.
It's a liability that, it's not needed.
Oh,
Well,
and
it's
you're
supposed
thinking
to
of
be
it
a
from a
war.
military
I am.
standpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely. But I think that was his thing. Like, and I again have
Yeah, this is supposed to
nothing
be
to base this
utopian.
on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of military, what is everyone thinking of Makos?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
I like the
think,
Makos.
Well,
Yeah.
that's one thing that really bothered me, especially in like next gen, is that they didn't have a standing military. Whenever they got into like a ground conflict, they would always send in like security personnel that were underfunded, underarmed, just like in a big wave.
Minimum
Like, everybody
wage.
run over there and take care of the problem. They just
Yeah.
get annihilated.
So I slightly, I see what you mean, but I slightly disagree with that because I made this point a few months back watching, I forget which movie it was, but I was like, this is the thing I like about Starfleet is the fact that these are explorers, these are scientists, these are genius people that when everything hits the fan, they'll pick up a phaser and rock your world,
Yeah.
And that was, as much as it probably flew in the face of what Roddenberry wanted for the franchise, one of my favorite episodes of DS9, I'm blanking on the name right now, is the one where they cover the ground conflict of the Dominion War.
It
The
was
one
with
where Nog loses a leg?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a number.
Yeah,
Siege of
the name
AR
of-
558.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
because I love the idea that as much as we have advanced as a species at that point, at the drop of a hat, we will still become cavemen. Because you had that dude with the Ketracel white necklace and all this
Yes.
other
Yes.
stuff, and it's like,
They went native.
yeah, and it's like I like the idea that wouldn't even as advanced as we are, we could still go there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
They took
Yeah,
the
it
mines
worked.
or whatever. Those were crazy.
But you think about it though, it worked to get us to where we are now. So why wouldn't it work to get us to where they are then?
Yeah, exactly.
I totally get like Starfleet's idea of utopia
Mhm.
and hey, everybody's going to be an explorer, but if we need to, we'll pick up a phaser and we'll fight. But
Mhm.
I feel like they were woefully incorrect in not having a standing military.
Mm.
Just for situations like that, to where you've got a massive alien species invading, and
Well,
all of a sudden you have
isn't that what
you
Starfleet
have
is?
no
Isn't that what
ability
the-
to respond.
I thought that's what the entire base on the moon was for. Like, isn't the what?
Base on the moon. What
Yeah,
base on
the
the moon?
Starfleet base on the moon
Well, I mean,
was like, they talk about it in a couple episodes, but it's supposed to be like,
I don't think
A
it's
defense
anything
base.
special.
I thought it was
I
supposed
mean-
to be like a defense base.
but for the most
Hmm.
part though,
No.
so like,
I don't remember.
Wasn't there an
You're-
Enterprise
You're thinking of
episode?
Independence Day 2.
Yeah.
But wasn't there an Enterprise?
Yeah, you are. You are. That's in the
Peter
State
Weller?
too.
I was gonna say, I mean, for the main role of the Enterprise is exploration, so you're not going to want to have military. If your job is diplomacy, why would you actively want to have an engaged military?
Well, you would keep them separate, and you don't necessarily have to put them on specific exploration ships. But if you look at, say, like the United States Marine Corps, they don't have Navy ships, but they are on Navy ships sometimes to be transported to certain places. I just feel like it would make a lot more logistical sense to have, even if it's not a massive force of dedicated soldiers for reacting to galactic emergencies. And if you just take regular security folks that are very intelligent and in some ways very talented and throw them into that, it's just going to be a big meat grinder because they're not professional soldiers and they don't do that all the time.
I think they spent too much time and effort focusing on we are a humanitarian peacekeeping organization.
Yeah.
We're explorers. And that is, they should know better. They should know better because of the Klingons, the Xindi,
Yeah,
Romulans,
Cardassians.
Borg, Cardassians. There are so many hostile forces they have come across. There should be a top-notch Marine
That's
type.
what made the Makos good. Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
they went
Like the
out and they
Makos.
disbanded them.
Yeah.
Yeah, like straight up, they got rid of the Makos. I think
Yeah.
back in like the Enterprise era.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the only place it existed.
Yeah, they showed up
Yeah.
for the Xindi War.
Because I loved that. Because I remember when they first introduced them, seeing these dudes with phaser rifles going and like entering and clearing
Yeah.
enemy ships. I was like, man,
well, then
that's
you
really
had the
cool.
actual like
Yeah.
ship personnel. What was it Lieutenant Reed, the head of security?
Yep.
Yeah, those two, like him and the Makos, had to like work out their issues. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Sheila in the chat saying she personally enjoys dislikable female characters. There's not enough of them.
Like what
Dislike.
female
I can see
characters
that.
do we dislike?
I think there are moments for all of them, right?
Janeway.
Yeah, Janeway's
So
just
why
insane.
Janeway?
She's insane.
She's absolutely nuts, and I love it.
There's
Like,
but here's the times thing. they could have got back, and she's like, nah, we're okay.
We'll go this other way. I love the episode where they they split off into like another time. There's like two identical Voyagers going on.
Yes,
And
yes,
then they
yes.
each Janeway talking to each other.
Yes.
And they're like, I'm gonna blow up my ship before you. And
No, I'm gonna blow up my ship.
before you. Like, are you insane?
Let me blow mine up.
Volunteering to kill your crew.
If I was an officer on that ship, I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I would stun her and throw it.
Well,
I would like, all right,
I
we're
can
both
see
gonna
Mike's
coexist. Let's not blow ourselves up. You go that way, I go this way.
well,
that was
About
a-
the episode.
we
that was
both
season
Voyager
one.
Where they,
No.
No,
they
season
find
one,
the
too.
dinosaurs.
Galactica episode, isn't
What
it?
about the Voyager episode where they find the dinosaurs that left Earth?
Yes, yes. That was
Is that the one where they go
um,
rogue 10?
No, that was a different one. That was Threshold.
Right.
The dinosaur one was oh God, it's
I forget the name of that episode, but they.
who's my researcher? I thought
I'm
I
doing it right
assigned
now.
roles.
Yeah, I know. Pull it up.
My role is whiskey drinker and talker.
You're whiskey drinker, talker.
But they
You are my
essentially
second
find
audio
Some
guy.
aliens that like they're dinosaurs that like left Earth.
distant origin.
Distant origin. Yes, distant origin.
So I remember certain parts of Voyager. I forget a lot of it. Like
Yeah,
the-
same here.
to be
I
fair,
watched
the-
it once, and
the
it was
most, like
okay.
They find
Pretty
a
much-
pickup truck floating in space, and
well, I remember when they picked up like 7 of 9 and beyond that, and obviously
That was when Voyager grew the beard.
it.
Yeah.
Well, and full disclosure, I was also 13, 14 at the time, so of course
Oh,
7 of 9 was kind of a
yeah.
deal.
You
That
were the
was
core
purely
audience.
coincidental.
Yeah, exactly,
Jerry
yeah.
Ryan was
No,
brought on.
But
for-
and in all fairness, I am so stoked to see her again as like a fully fleshed out character in Picard.
In Picard,
Like, just
oh,
what we've seen of
yes.
her, I was like, oh, I'm so ready for this.
Especially that
Yeah.
juxtaposition with Locutus.
Yes.
Oh God, like
Yeah.
Well,
the
because they're ready, 'cause I
conversations
don't
they're
know how
gonna
much
have,
attention
man.
you paid to the promo material, but we're going to have a trifecta of that. So we're going to have Picard there as former Locutus. We're going to have 7, and Hugh is coming back.
oh, I
Yes.
didn't know
Yeah.
Oh,
that.
you didn't know that?
No,
Yes.
I go trailer. For
So,
me.
so like,
Oh.
I remember when they announced Picard, I
Hugh.
wondered. I was like, I wonder
Hugh,
what
not cute.
part of his traumatic past
You
they're
got
going
it?
to tackle first.
I don't
Is it
think
going to be the death of his,
is
was
it-
it
Like-
his nephew in
His nephew.
Generations?
Yes.
With the
His
death of his
nephew and his
nephew,
brother.
or the failure
Very
to
memorable,
save the Romulans because obviously he had an attachment to them because of Spock,
Yeah.
or is it because of the Borg thing? And from the trailers, they're like, we're going to do all 3. We're just going to traumatize the hell out of this man.
Well, if you remember, yeah, right. If
Yeah.
you remember in the trailer, he was talking to the Admiral, and there was she said, 15 years ago, you led the greatest rescue armada in history.
Mhm.
And this was a theory that we had in another episode of the Beyond Trek podcast when we were talking about the new trailers that came out for the New York Comic Con,
Mhm.
was that if you saw the trailer, there was a character, I can't remember her name, but she said something about, say you're doing another
Yeah.
unauthorized, unsanctioned.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
thing, something like that. So our theory was that the Federation kind of turned a blind eye to what was going to happen to Romulus. Like it was all right, so we're going to invoke the Prime Directive here. There's really nothing we can do. It's not our
Yeah.
problem. And on the side, it's one less adversarial pain in the ass organization that we have to deal with.
Yep.
So we're gonna pull technicality and say, sorry, there's nothing we can do. And Picard calls in all these favors, calls in Riker from the Titan and mercenaries, just anyone he can. He dumped every favor he had, all of it, to create this armada to evacuate these Romulans
Mhm.
and Remans,
Yep.
to save these lives, because the Federation pretty much condemned them to death.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's what had him taken him out of Starfleet and Riker. I think there were
Exactly.
court martials that were handed down because he just said, "All right, you know what? I'm done with you."
Yeah.
screw this. I'm going to do what I need to do. And that was the rescue armada to get as many people off as they could.
I agree. All I know is the one thing I've noticed on all the promo material and everything they've talked
Mhm.
about, nobody who would have been on the Enterprise has been acknowledged in any way. If they did a whole, oh, the Enterprise was destroyed and Picard's the only one that made it, I will never forgive them.
They can't do that. They can't do that. There's
I hope
no
not.
way.
I'm hoping.
No, he lost his command.
Yeah.
Is
And
what-
everything you just said, I 100% agree with. Yeah, no, I'm so. A lot of people have problems with Discovery, clearly. However, I feel like Discovery.
Prototaxi.
Yeah, prototypes. I feel like Discovery
Much power.
draws Picard. And that's why I can at least respect Discovery, because I feel like we would not have Picard without it. Because they proved, okay, this franchise still has an audience, even though it's frankly hard to get to behind
Yes.
CBS's paywall.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so they were like, okay, now that we've done the new and interesting thing that's supposed to try and appeal to both older fans and fans of the JJ verse, let's do something that is I mean, let's be real. Who is going to watch Picard and get a lot out of it that isn't a fan of this franchise? Like, just based on the trailers, there's so much that you have to know.
It's for the fans.
Yeah. And I love that. That's great. But clearly Discovery got us there.
So here's the big question that I want to give you guys to converse about while I see what in the world's going on with this on-call thing, because I'm sure stuff's blowing out.
Yeah.
So let me give you this so that I can kind of step away and see what in the world's going on. Picard, Star Trek Picard, is this going to finally unite the fractured fandom that has been created from Enterprise and Discovery?
Absolutely not.
It'd probably just make it worse.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I expect it to actually
Yeah.
accentuate the fragmentation.
Unless Beverly Crusher is actually the captain of a medical ship.
The pastor.
Yep, the pastor, and they're married.
Divorced.
Divorced. Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
divorced.
Yeah.
If they do that, you will
Then-
get all of TNG fan base behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I know you're not a fan of trailers, but the New York Comic Con trailer that they just released for Picard, there's a moment in it where we see Riker chopping vegetables or something. I forget what he's doing, but you hear this very young girl's voice, saying, "Dad, stop yelling!" And I literally almost burst into tears. I'm not gonna lie. I almost cried big, ugly man tears when that happened. I was like, oh my God, I cannot wait to meet Riker and Troy's daughter.
Yeah.
Like, that alone is gonna make this show worth it for me.
And he probably still can't play, what is it, Nightbird?
Yeah.
Probably still can't play Nightbird.
Yeah.
No, like there's so much about TNG. Like the characters are so perfectly well established that the only way that Picard can, I think, grab that fan base and run with it
Mhm.
is by paying respect to every little detail about Riker, about Troy, about Picard, about like all of those characters deserve the utmost respect and cherishing. And if they don't do that, the first mistake they make early on,
Oh yeah.
they're going to lose that entire fan base.
Just based on what we've seen, I feel like they've done it though.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah. No, I mean, obviously, we'll wait and see.
Yeah, they can
Yeah.
get trailers together. and look
Yeah,
cool.
like they,
Yeah. I mean, the Prometheus trailer looked good, but we all know how that turned out. So yeah.
well, I mean, like you said
Take our helmets off.
I haven't seen the trailers or whatever, but you said they've got like Data's head, right?
Oh no!
Biologist.
So the newest trailer, the version of Data he's talking to is most likely in his head.
So it's not B4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because in the newest trailer, he's walking up to Data. Data's wearing original TNG uniform.
Yeah.
He is also wearing TNG captain's uniform. And in the earlier trailer, he even like the closing stinger of it was Picard saying, he's like, I don't want the game to end. And then you just have this extreme close-up on Brent Spiner's Data saying, well, clearly, or something along those lines. I can't remember what it was, but but it was so. It's kind of like when the Force Awakens trailer came
I like
out.
Joe.
And
Best
it was
best Star Trek on TV right now is the Orville.
Our man Joe,
Yeah.
our man Joe,
Straight up
helping
the
us out. Thank
And
you,
only
Joe.
about like maybe two-thirds or three-quarters of the Orville really followed the Star Trek.
Oh yeah.
In all seriousness, the Orville has really knocked it out of the park.
Yes,
God,
they
it's
have.
so good.
How it is so good because they especially what they did with the Mocklins.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
was insane.
And
Really good.
The
It just kept
first,
escalating and escalating and escalating. I'm like, you really gonna go there? Like, wow.
Yeah.
You went there.
Well, the like cultural differences to the point where like
Mhm.
they kill each other instead of divorcing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Like, and the whole smoking thing is hilarious. The smoking it is hysterical.
Unzip
It's
the
like
pillow
it's
and-
perfect, but it makes perfect sense. Like it's another alien species. Something that's addictive for humans might be really fucking addictive for another species. So it like the stuff that they're doing in the Orville is
yes.
genius. The writing is
Seth
perfect.
going
MacFarlane
back
is
to
a
that-
guy.
Like heroin and shrimply pibbles.
Yes.
I'm gonna strongly disagree with that statement. But
Come
The
on.
episode
No,
where they
heroin
did, like
is
the
extremely addictive.
social media.
Whoa. Oh my God, that was so
we
good.
live in Ohio, so
That was
yes.
like straight out of Black Mirror.
Yeah.
So it was like, unfortunately, it was something that was done like a year before
Yeah.
the Orville.
Yeah.
Black Mirror, but-
Yeah, but it was still like that was amazing.
But that's
the whole,
But that's
The
what
whole
the Orville
trial
has,
aspect
though.
of
It captures that social commentary.
exactly.
That-
Just like Next Generation and DS9 did.
Right. And that's
Yeah.
why it's so fantastic. Or
Yeah.
why we all assume that it's so fantastic because we're able to identify, we recognize those traits from
Yeah.
TOS, TNG,
Yeah.
from all those, and we're able to,
And,
they've got it.
Aren't we
And
about
the
to
stuff
hit the
that-
time like when the Bell riots took place?
We're close. We're 5 years away from it.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
And you
It's
know-
going to happen. The Bell riots?
DS9.
The DS9?
Bashir and Cisco and Dax, that they go back in time.
Oh yeah. Okay, now I remember.
Yeah.
It's been a few years.
oh my God.
Yeah.
So wait, my question is, what year was it in was that the premiere of TNG where apparently World War III happens
Yes.
and the guys
Yes.
and the soldiers wear fetish gear with like with this hose that
It's
goes
like
into
padded
the-
armor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Historically accurate.
I mean, I've gone to a couple, special
That's
event
what catches
nights where people have dressed like that, but I
Are
have
you
not seen
serious?
soldiers. No, I'm kidding. I mean, yeah.
Well, speaking of which, and you gave me a great segue there. So there was this image I saw online, and it was a bunch of fans, people dressed up in their Starfleet uniforms,
Mhm.
and it was, how is this different than this? And the bottom picture was a bunch of dudes dressed up in their NFL favorite teams,
It's not.
kind of thing, and that is not
What?
different to me. Yes.
Yeah, no, it's not
So it's pointed at as, so if you see a bunch of Trekkers dressed up in their outfits, there's all this attention that's put towards it, like, that's weird, that's strange and
okay.
whatnot.
I
But-
feel like that's a generational thing. I
Really?
think that's
Well,
was in there.
have you ever- so-
Well, because Amber and I and my son Nacho, we went to the 2019 Cincinnati Comic Expo, and we just did rounds around there. John was there. We were literally like,
I was there and never saw either one of
we
you.
were the Enterprise and Reliant circling around the
Wonderful
regular
reference.
one.
Wonderful.
We were both there at the same time, walking circles around each other, never saw each other. So yeah, we went around, we talked to all these people that were dressed up, and what is the difference between that and these crazy football fans wearing these uniforms? Let's talk about that.
There isn't one.
Yeah.
And the thing is
It's
that
all you, Jefferson.
Well, but why are
you're
they
the
bridging-
bridging the
segue
gap?
What do you think?
between football and Star Trek?
No, what do you think fantasy
Of course,
sports
I'm
is?
bridging the
Yeah.
gap
What do you
between
think-
football and Star
Thank you.
Trek.
What do you think fantasy sports is? It's D&D for jocks. That's what
It
It
is.
is.
It's
It
literally
is. It's
like-
D&D for jocks.
It's
yes.
fantasy baseball is the geekiest, nerdiest thing I have ever seen in my life. It is
He
like
almost killed John.
100% like statistics and numbers and calculus, and
Yes.
it's like
No,
I wish I had
literally
glasses.
do
I
it.
could,
Yeah, well, it's so,
that's
like,
what it is,
played
yeah.
baseball, can't
There's an
confirm.
episode of
I
American
know-
Dad where they make up fantasy baseball and they actually use dice.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But no,
Character
so
sheets?
I know one person in here at least is going to get this joke. It's like THACO is not nearly as complicated as fantasy baseball. Like
Oh, yeah.
like people,
Yeah.
the guys who play AD&D complain about like THACO, how you have to calculate what your THACO is versus what their
And
AC is.
By the
and what
way,
you have to actually
anyone that
roll to-
doesn't know what that actually stands for, it's
To hit
armor class 0.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you have to roll to hit an armor class of 0, which I don't even understand. But whatever, like the math behind figuring that out is just a bunch of adding and subtracting. The math to figure out how many points you scored in fantasy baseball is literally calculus. I'm pretty sure. Like it's absolutely insane, and people and like jocks or whatever play this, I guess, and it's like how this. It's not any different. You're absolutely right.
Well,
It's totally the same.
I think there is one minor difference, and that one is there is a legitimate, like, real sport that is played physically, and the other is
How are the people who play that sport any different than the people who?
Do you want to know what the
one
difference
involves
is?
in TNT?
impacting bodies, and the other involves sitting around a table. Now, I agree they're both completely legitimate.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead.
I'll say the difference is perception.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, one
That's
is
it.
like
Yeah, one's publicly
gladiatorial,
acceptable.
like physical violence, and the other is mental. That
Mental
people don't
violence.
get. It
Yes.
is mentally.
Oh, give me some of that.
It is a shared
Can't get
storytelling
arrested
where
for it,
a
right?
lot of violence happens, but
Football's
it's not
40% physical and 80% mental.
So personally,
It's after you get hit.
and I just threw
Those
this in there,
numbers
but I
add
feel
up.
like
Wait, but you have to give 110%.
That was from the movie Little Giants.
Yeah.
so. I feel like
becomes
it's
less
pretty
mental
similar.
every time you get hit in the head.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like it's pretty similar to people arguing sports versus esports.
Yeah.
It's
I can see
very
that.
similar to
That's the
that.
same thing that John Bilgaki said in the.
John what?
John Bilgaki.
Bill,
How do you pronounce that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Bilgaki?
Yes, exactly. But no, that's the same kind of thing. So years ago, I worked someplace else, and there was this guy who was on my it was like myself and a couple other people.
Is that even possible?
Right. So there was this guy, and I'm blanking on his name, but he was very much
Kevin
like the
Costner.
more jock dude.
Waterworld.
God, I wish I was in
Being
Kevin
into
Costner.
advice right now.
Did he drink his own piss?
I would have asked him about making Mr. Brooks, honestly, because I love that movie.
This is
That movie was great,
It
actually.
was,
show.
yeah. But like,
You didn't- that's
I
not what you were
remember
saying, Aaron.
this
You remember
guy-
when I said this show would go off the rails?
Yeah, here it is.
Just
Sorry, yeah.
off.
I saw the train coming, and I was just like,
Yeah.
Well, no, and this does tie into it a little bit. So this guy who I worked with, like, he was the like more jock, sports-oriented guy, and the majority of us were like, we all geeked out over Game of Thrones and stuff
Okay.
like that. So that was literally the weekend where ESPN decided we're going to start showing. I want to say it was Heroes of the Storm. It was some esports.
Okay. All right.
sounds about right.
And he
Overwatch.
comes in and he comes to me and he says, "Hey, have you ever played this game?" I was like, "No, I've actually never played that." He's like, "I have no idea what was going on in this, but man, was it enthralling." And he's like, "It's the way these people talk about it." And it's just kind of the same thing. It's like, I feel like it's the same exact thing, just two sides of the same coin.
Yep.
Mhm.
Like, yeah.
As Blues Traveler says, it doesn't matter what you say as long as you say it with inflection.
Did I say that with inflection?
Well,
Or use a
the
southern
esports
accent.
commentators say it with inflection.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So what I said didn't matter, but
Right. That's a given.
yeah, well, yeah.
Wait.
what?
All I know is I've lost many hours watching StarCraft commentary, and I don't even play that game. It's
Yeah.
just the way they say it.
Yeah.
You get really excited. It's like I'm not going to sit down and I'm not going to watch football.
Yeah.
But I'll stream YouTube and I'll.
Wasn't that how
What is
Madden?
I don't get it.
Like,
What is
kinda
wrong with me
career?
that I
Yeah.
can't watch other people play video games?
Yeah, I can't do that.
I can't. I like the Twitch is beyond me. I don't understand it. I can't watch other people play video games.
You're watching the wrong people.
No, I watch the same people you do.
No, you
I
don't.
watch other
Do you
people
watch
play video
sports?
games.
Start
It's
watching
a game that I
people.
play.
Do you watch sports?
No.
What do you watch? Okay, keep it
Filter
G-rated.
Filter it.
What? No.
Yeah, filter it. What do you watch?
I watch a lot of physics videos.
Oh my god.
You do?
Yeah.
What?
I watch.
Does-
I'm really into.
Don't
Shut
no.
up. I have his Plex server. It's Letterkenny.
I was gonna say no. You can't say anything on that because
Well, so
physics
Letterkenny,
oriented
yeah.
as well.
But I also watch a lot of machining and physics videos and stuff like that. And then every once in a while, I'll watch Letterkenny.
I feel like my son, he watches weird shit like that too. I'll go there and I'm like, what are you doing? It's the weekend. You're not supposed to be learning.
Yeah, man.
It's the weekend. You're not supposed
I
to
want to learn.
Like, why are you in your
We
room
are
watching
big
like
fun Monday through
World War
Friday,
II
we're
history right
Yeah.
now?
That's what I'm
you know?
doing wrong.
Go out and play.
Jeremy, thank you. I just figured out what I've always been
Joe-
doing wrong.
Joe Kirschbaum agrees with you. It's impossible for him to, or a hard time watching people play video games.
Yeah.
I found the
But
chat.
he,
by the way.
he
Yeah.
plays. He plays video games.
It's
How does he
hard
have
to-
a hard time with that?
Well, it's
Watch
watch them
other
play.
people.
Watch them
Oh,
play the
watching,
game,
okay.
not
Okay.
watch.
Gotcha.
You know,
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
Well, I know.
Well, I'd have a problem if the person playing is playing poorly. That would
Right,
drive me
right.
up a wall.
Polygon.
Pretty much any publications, they don't know how to
Yeah,
play
they don't know
games.
what the hell.
They know how to present information in a way to
Yeah.
get, to get
I
clicks.
just every time somebody mentions like games media or whatever, all I can think of is like whoever the hell was trying to play Doom with like one thumb on their keyboard, like at Polygon. You guys remember that video?
Yeah.
They're like literally running against a wall and like turning this slow as they run against the wall.
Yeah.
It's like I
They're
can't.
probably trying to play a console.
Well, yeah, but even consoles better than that. Like, I don't get it.
By the way, you are right now currently a disembodied voice. There's no reason for you to wear your hoodie.
I'm not.
By the way,
disembodied.
this is a podcast about Star Trek.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It-
Okay,
Hey,
let's
speaking of
move
video
on.
games,
Can it play Doom? Yeah,
hey, can it play Doom? Everything can play Doom now.
it's true.
No, I would
The
actually.
toilet?
I would really like to host a some kind of a bridge simulator night.
I'm in.
I know you've already said that.
Yeah,
I know.
absolutely.
But-
And like,
I think I've
Yeah.
seen that.
Well, it's not. So there's like the Star Trek bridge simulator, which requires that pretty much everybody who's playing has a VR headset of some type.
Mhm.
That is prohibitively expensive, and there's only like 3 people that I know that even own one, and none of them would be interested. So I would like. There's other ones out there where all you
I
need
have
is
a
a
VR.
lap as a computer.
Yeah.
Al has a VR.
Akil has a PSVR. I have one.
But I
So
think
we got at least
but the problem is that I think Al has what, like a Vive or something.
No, he's got a.
does that
He has
have cross
Oculus.
play?
He's an Oculus.
That's what I don't think so. It's like even if you get 5 people together that all have VR headsets, they're on like 3 different platforms, and it doesn't matter. So
I know at least 3 is on.
I think the Star
PS4.
Trek thing is on Oculus, and it's like I don't want to. I'm not putting Facebook on my head. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't even think you need to play it in 3D. Like, I don't think that's a requirement. But either way,
It's a VR game. I'm not sure if I think it is required.
Facebook's on your head right now, dude.
No, it's right there.
And it's on your head,
No, this is plugged into that.
which is on Facebook.
No, it's not currently. recorded. It might be
I'm
later,
sorry,
but right
maybe I
now.
have a little bit too much bourbon.
Facebook is picking up from my Blue Yeti, and Randy thought that
I'm not listening
when I
to
was
that.
talking about a Yeti, that I was going to bring in a real live Yeti.
You
No,
can play
cooler.
Bridge Crew
A
without
cooler,
VR.
Yes.
yeah, I think they patched it.
No, not the Yeti cooler.
Wait, they patched the
But if you got a different thing that's like cool,
Sheila-
I'm up for it.
Sheila said you can play Bridge Crew without VR. Well, so there's a
Yes, you can.
Yes, you
played,
can.
And
Yeah.
I
I didn't
played
know.
with
I don't
her on Bridge Crew. It's a lot of fun.
The downside to it is, if I'm not mistaken, you're limited to like 4, maybe 5 people at a time.
1, 2, 3, 4.
and you can't have multiple.
Because
ships.
I've seen videos of
But
people
it's the
playing it.
same
and
on
it's just-
VR or Pancake. It's 4.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
there's other games where you can have like 4, 5, 6 people on a ship, and you can have multiple ships in the same universe.
You know
There's
who is,
Artemis, which is pretty cool too. There's a few games out there that will.
You know who's pretty much a pro at Bridge Crew? Nacho, my son.
So
he's.
I was going to ask you about this earlier. Your son's name is Nacho?
That's his nickname. His
Okay.
nickname.
All right.
Do you have other kids named like?
I was gonna
Cool
say,
Ranch,
My nickname's
Taco,
Bagels.
right?
I mean,
Right.
Bagels, Nacho.
Well, yeah, but
Sweet
I didn't know that
spicy
was his,
nacho.
I know that's your nickname. Your real name's
His-
John. I
his
didn't know
one-
his son's real name wasn't Nacho.
His son's
Okay.
name is Nacho. His daughter's name is Cool Ranch. Yeah, it's
Well, he's a part of the podcast, and,
Okay.
and he's been on some episodes. I even asked him, "Do you want to come tonight to our thing?" And he's like, "No, I just want to chill at home," which is great. But
He even has a twin brother named Spicy Nacho.
Yeah.
Sweet spicy.
And then
taco.
but not
next one's going to be
How old is
Diablo,
he?
right?
He's real
Ghost
good.
Pepper.
How old is he?
He's 13.
Oh, nice.
His knowledge of Star Trek it's insane. Like I am so
That was my peak.
I am so
Star
proud
Trek,
because we will be just sitting around,
That's-
driving or whatever, and we just go talk about everything. It's all over the place.
Awesome.
And he's asked me stuff on warp theory that I'm like, that's a good question. I can't.
Yeah.
You know, I've been a Star Trek veteran for 82, 92, 02, so 27, 37 years.
I can't do
What was 82? What's 82? And then we're in 2019.
Yeah, 30.
How old are you, man?
37.
42.
37.
I'm 42.
That'd be
You
37.
were a band when
Which
you were
means
like 5 years old.
2 years
What was it?
Before-
82?
37 years.
I was born.
Jesus
Were you watching the
Christ.
original series?
Oh my
82?
God.
'Cause that was the only thing that was
So yeah, he's.
Sheila said that when you played bridge, you set the bridge on fire.
I did.
You have been disinvited.
You can interpret the.
Was there an accelerant involved?
You could be Sigourney Weaver.
Sigourney Weaver. We'll just ignore you.
So I was at Tactical, and we're playing this game, and I could hear the sounds of fire, and I'm looking around, I don't see anything, and I'm like, I hear something burning. Where is it? And she said, "You're on fire. You're literally on fire." And I looked down, and that's where the fire was. I was like, Jesus!
How did you get ignited
Did
without
your
knowing?
console explode?
Jefferson?
Please tell me your console.
Because I fired a torpedo at a mine when our shields were down.
You're disinvited.
But how were you specifically on fire and not anything else?
We're
It was
gonna
at
call
the
that the
console. It was
Jefferson
at my
maneuver.
console. It was literally right there.
You stop, drop, and roll.
Yeah, I should have.
Can we call that the Jefferson maneuver?
The Jefferson maneuver.
Well, the maneuver is just him sitting there on fire.
I can't believe she brought that up. That's horrible.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that was great. So yeah, that's a great segue because I am desperately trying to keep this back to the rails
Right.
again. Jeremy, you can see my struggle.
Oh yeah,
here.
we'll steer it right back.
We're going to try to steer it back. So gaming, the gaming in Star Trek in the 90s, that was when Star Trek was in its heyday. There were all kinds of games, computer games, et cetera, et cetera. There was Starfleet Command.
That's a good one.
There was Birth of the Federation, Klingon Academy, Starfleet Academy. What was the Voyager one?
Elite Force.
TIE Fighter versus
Yes,
X-Wing.
Elite Force.
There
Yeah,
you
yeah.
That was a good one.
Elite Force. That was great.
So there was all kinds, but now it has gone so thin on the gaming. So my question is, do we think that the gaming realm is going to come back to Star Trek now that we have Discovery coming up and Star Trek Picard? Jeremy, what do you think?
I think it could. I know with Star Trek Online, there was a surge of people interested in playing Star Trek games online. I played it for a little bit before I even watched Star Trek. I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot, and I enjoyed it. So I'd like to see another game come out. Even if it's just a bridge simulator, it'd still be fun. But something to go out and actually explore different planets, and maybe have certain missions on some weird planet you've never been to before. Just find some weird relics and just weird stuff. It's kind of like
Destiny,
more of an adventure
but
game.
not.
Kind of.
The
Yeah.
promise of Destiny, but not the reality of Destiny.
Right.
Oh, we're talking about Destiny now?
No.
Let's talk about
Games,
that.
Yeah,
Star
let-
Trek games. Where do you see it going
Corral you
now?
back here.
Because in the 90s, here's the preface of the question. In the 90s, the Star Trek games were big. There were so many. They were all over the place. And then it dipped and went away when Star Trek on TV kind of went away. So where do we see the gaming property going when it gets back into, and this might be the most boring topic ever, but we're in IT, we love games and we love Star Trek.
Let's say I disagree with that.
I'd like to see a game that is hack the board.
Hack the board.
Mm-hmm.
How do you figure out, like Picard does in First Contact, exactly where to shoot when everybody's like, but that's like a pointless part of the cube to shoot? And he's like, no, trust me.
Because
And then it just blows
that
up.
area does not
because
indicate a
you
vital
let
system.
them assimilate you,
Well, no.
but you're too
But
smart.
how do you
like
figure that
Picard.
out without being assimilated? I.e., hack the board.
So real quick, gonna derail from the video game topic just for a second.
Okay, all right.
Because
What I would do is I would hack
Yeah,
into the Wi-Fi and then use the exploit of RDP on their 2008 servers.
Blue Castle. And then Dirty Cow, their servers.
Right.
Yeah. No, thank you, buddy.
so
Remote access.
Assimilated too many.
So
poorly
one of-
protected companies.
one of the things about the Defiant being used in First Contact, if you're familiar with that, is that
Yes.
the showrunners of DS9 were very angry with how it got treated. And they
Yes,
said, oh,
yes.
it was in the movie for like half a minute. And
Yep.
it was. So here's the thing, and I came to this breakthrough months ago when I was watching First
Mhm.
Contact, and I shared it with him. But
Yeah.
I want to share it now,
Yeah.
which was no, because everybody always likes to joke, oh, that was a ship made for fighting the Borg, and it just
Yes.
immediately got its ass handed to it. It's not true.
It's not.
So if you go back and watch that movie from the initial contact with the Borg, which is the Typhon sector, wherever that's supposed
Yes.
to be, the Defiant was there.
Yep.
They give orders to the Defiant, and then when they make their way all the way to Earth, it's still there, still fighting.
So, and you're right, because I read, this was a while back, I don't remember where it was, it might have been like the novelization or some behind the scenes thing, but when they engage the Borg at the Typhon sector, that was a 3-day running fight to Earth.
Holy
So,
crap.
Yes.
Wow. So
Yes.
the
Yes.
Defiant
Three-
battling
holy
for
shit.
three
Yes,
days.
three days that they're basically going from here to here.
Yeah.
Fighting the Borg.
Yeah.
And so by that point, once we see them at, which makes the scene where Picard on the Enterprise E calls for red alert and everyone just, let's get our chairs and lean forward and be ready. They were at the neutral zone.
Yeah.
That was a couple days away from Earth.
Yeah.
At the least.
So basically, we did a movie fast forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a movie fast forward. So basically, at that point, the Defiant was worn out. I mean, Starfleet has been
That's
fighting the Borg for
fatigue, yeah.
3 days.
Well, plus,
against the cube.
and still, every single time that it fired, which was like pew, 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 it hit the cube with more force twice.
Because
Because
that's what I
every
told
other
him.
ship
I
there
still
was like a
have
single focused cruiser.
the chat log with me and him somewhere, but I was like, imagine if they'd known where to shoot like Picard did. That
Right.
fight would have been over
Yeah.
like
Oh,
that. Yeah.
Wasn't the original concept of the Defiant, the reason it was so small and only had like 50 crew was instead of building like a Galaxy class that's
Yeah.
like 1,000 people,
Yeah.
build like for the same price 30 Defiants
Exactly.
and send them
Yeah.
all in there. And if 3 get destroyed, that's terrible, but you've only lost 150 people.
Yeah.
And
And you
3
get,
ships.
like
when
literally
you
the
go
Defiant
through-
theoretically has the firepower of a Galaxy class starship, just
Or,
in a
yeah,
tiny
Sovereign.
little compact form.
Yeah.
Sovereign
Yeah.
class
And you
actually
get-
is closer.
A crap load of those in a giant fleet, and they could probably do some serious damage to Borg.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
did-
especially like those were they disruptors or fate? They were.
They were
like,
pulse
phasers.
phasers.
Pulse phasers.
Yeah,
Pulse phasers
pulse phasers.
specifically designed to
Yeah.
puncture shields.
I'm gonna pull that up. So you guys talk amongst yourself. I'm gonna pull up the
The progressive
scene
arrows, the
from
progressive-
First Contact of that scene, and honestly, the Defiant has been doing what it was supposed to do. And think
Oh, yeah.
about it.
The Defiant was like
They were
what,
there.
Yeah.
They were there at the initial encounter.
Yeah.
And lasted the whole time
Yep.
until
And that's a tough little ship.
Yeah.
tough
Little.
2 words.
Well, I guess one other thing that would bother me,
Methamphetamine.
that was a 3-day like
Catch yourself light.
Starfleet. The quantity of ships in Starfleet has never been officially stated, I don't think, but it's got to be in the thousands.
Well, there's a shot
Thousands,
in
yeah.
Deep Space Nine where how many ships do you think it was in Deep Space Nine?
Oh, when they pulled them all in?
About,
When
like
they pulled them all in?
900 to like 1,300 ships
Yeah.
in deep
Yeah.
space.
Okay, so I know the shot you're talking.
Yeah.
So unlike you, I watched DS9 when it aired for the most part. Like once they got to the Dominion War, and I'll never forget that season finale where they abandoned DS9, and it's like up until then that battle was like the Defiant and a Bird of Prey, and that was kind of it. And then that last shot where they joined hundreds of Federation ships. That was the first time we ever saw them.
yes,
The
yes,
grid.
that was the
Up until that, you never saw more than 4 ships on screen at
Yeah.
a
When they were building
Yeah.
the grid
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he's like, it's I forget what the closing line was by Cisco, but you just see the Defiant. Like at first, it's just shot with just the Defiant, and then they take formation with
Couple
just
hundred.
end
It had
to
to be a
end.
couple
that was
hundred.
the season 5
Yeah.
finale.
That I forget how old I was. I was mid-teens probably when I saw that, and that blew my mind. I was so like I went in to talk to my friends the next day at school or whatever, and it was oh my god, did you see that? Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that blew my mind.
So the one thing that bothered me, if it is going to be a 3-day like running fight, if that's what actually happened, couldn't they have pulled in hundreds of ships? I know obviously the distance of space is very vast, but I feel like Earth should have a standing fleet of hundreds of ships, no
Yeah.
matter what.
They should, but they don't. All right, so here it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's see, hold on just a minute.
Oh, we have a clip.
Yeah,
We'll show a clip.
It's a good thing that it's
I would love to stream
exactly
it, but-
opposite of anybody on
Well,
the.
Well, I'm pretty sure we'd get
Live.
copyright struck if you stream
Quick,
this.
Sigourney Weaver, tell us what's happening.
We got a close up of the work cube right now. Oh, play by play.
Yeah, play by play.
People attack.
You're gonna madden it.
Oh, we got with the
Here
Earth.
it comes.
She's already on fire.
3 days. It's still going.
That little
Play
ship.
armor.
Polarize the shield plate.
Polarize the whole thing.
Or just
Put
automated
the sunglasses
repairing.
on the hall.
Yeah.
We lost shields. Our weapons are gone.
Perhaps today is a good day to die.
Hell yeah.
Prepare for running speed!
Sir, there's another star.
Attach bayonets.
Exactly. Yeah.
The con officer on DS9, on the Defiant is Parks and Recreation.
Defiant.
I've never seen it.
Ready to transport
Great
room
series.
3B with Defiant.
The one who was the mayor of Wintertown.
Captain Dan.
Oh, the guy.
I forget.
Come on, Parks and Recreation.
Adam something.
Yeah, Adam Scott. Adam Scott.
Scott.
Yeah. Adam Scott was the Defiant con officer.
So I don't
That kills me.
know.
The screen wasn't already activated. Like we're just gonna fly into battle. The screen's off. We're just gonna trust our instruments. Turn on the screen in a dramatic.
That's how a lot of aircraft work now, honestly.
So yeah, so what do they do the whole time? They're
just
sitting
staring
there
at the wall.
staring at a wall like an empty screen.
They had their blast
For 3
shields down
days.
so they could use the force.
Right. And the screen.
Open the blast door.
So
Open the blast door.
So I have the Enterprise E model on my desk, and you might have seen this too. When I first put it there, I put a post on Facebook and took a picture of it, and I said, "Sir, there's another starship coming in. ... It's the Enterprise." Because I grew up with Enterprise D, but for some reason Enterprise E is just so awesome to me. I love it.
So I've got a story on that one too. But can you grab your Defiant cutaway so we can do the
Yeah.
Oh, show and tell.
the show and tell? Yeah, I want to do the show and tell. Do any of you have any Star Trek stuff to do
Yeah.
for show and tell?
I do now.
I have.
Oh, okay, there you go. There you go. Yeah. Go,
I was
go
going
ahead.
to bring a
and grab-
tricorder, and I do have the original series tricorder.
I have the tricorder from TNG.
Like an original prop.
Yeah.
No.
Well, no, not
This is
the
a
prop.
toy.
Yeah, a bunch of toys, but I gave that to my son. So he's
Mine's up in my closet.
Nacho or Cool Ranch?
Spicy
Nacho.
Taco? Spicy.
And John actually he got me Cork shirt or a Ferengi shirt. It's like a rule of acquisition.
He did?
You know, like for my birthday.
Oh, you're
last year.
lucky.
Like, hell yeah.
I'd just like to say, because we're in this, I was the only person here, I believe, that went to the Star Trek experience in Vegas.
Yes, and I'm
You
jealous.
got to go to
Yeah.
Vegas?
Yeah.
There are some very
He went
very
there.
pictures.
He was at Cork's bar.
Yeah, I was there with Kirschbaum.
Nice.
With more
Nice,
than
okay.
anything else. Yeah.
Yeah, he showed me pictures of that, and I was jealous. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I was too.
Yeah, you haven't
So
seen
we
that?
got our we got our
That's
show
my
and
newest,
tell.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I got that from the comic
Hell
book.
yeah.
So John and Mike, first Mike, if you like, would you please show us the show and tell?
That's awesome.
You go first. You're closer.
Oh yeah.
Tell us how you
He's a
got it.
lot buffer than I
Let's
remember.
see. I am
No,
not the
it's
original
good.
owner.
You gotta
Data's
hold it-
got
you gotta hold it up
muscles.
like that. So you can
Probably
use it.
about
As of right now, you don't exist.
7 or 8 years ago. Hello.
Oh, yeah, you can
7
see-
or 8 years
you
ago,
can see it, yeah.
as a joke for
There.
an old job, we were supposed to write down things that we would absolutely want someday, but we couldn't get on our own. And I put down a Captain John Luke action figure. And lady was able to track one down. The battery still works. And screwed it up. It's from like 1995 or 4 or 1 or something. And yeah, I'm never going to open it. And
Push
I
the
have
button
a
on the back.
Captain John Luke Picard action figure.
Well, you got to put it up to the mic.
Put up the mic.
Yeah, here.
He says
Try
3
me.
phrases.
Okay. Here, all right. Hold on.
It's like,
Wait, I
All
got
right.
it.
Oh yes. All right. Let's see this. All right. So and does the battery still work?
It still works.
Engaged.
I can't hear it. Okay. So-
Ship's log supplemental.
No, just kidding.
Jerk.
He didn't sound Scottish.
Right.
And the good news is, if we turn this in along with $14.95, this is equivalent to 4 star points, I guess. If we take some coupon, we can get some
A
sort of
captain's
official
log?
Star Trek
Fucking
fan
asshole
club
here.
merchandise.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we get 6 bi-month Star Trek magazine subscription.
Oh, okay.
My
Okay.
son says
But you do have to.
That would
send
be
them your
3
credit card
magazines.
number on
Yeah,
that
that's a
piece
good
of
deal.
cake.
I did the math. That would be 3 magazines.
Yeah, right. I'm sure this is still valid. 6 to 8 weeks from now.
How many Marvel miles is that?
So I remember having a
It's
couple.
actually a $2 discount.
I remember having a couple of the next gen action figures, and they had the like phasers with like the Ghostbusters style like things that came
Oh
out
my
of them.
God!
and all
Yes,
that.
yes, I had those. Yes.
Yep, I remember those. I had a couple of them. I had Data, Picard, and I think a couple others. I can't remember.
Let's see your show and tell.
I got a couple things now. So this is the one that initially drew your attention,
Mm-hmm.
Jefferson.
Cutaway.
Yep.
And that is the Defiant.
Look at that. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
So pretty.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Favorite chip.
Mine too.
We gotta hold that up close.
Okay.
Is someone watching the stream? So
I am. I can't
Okay.
see how well that
Alright.
looks.
I'll do it.
The delay is kind of hard to.
Yeah.
yeah, it's like a 30-second delay.
That's how we edit.
Right.
Further back.
We're doing it live.
Further back.
Yeah.
Way
We're
back.
doing it live.
As you know, when theming on the phones is like really, really big, the L-car
Yeah, pretty
stations
good.
were huge.
Oh, absolutely. I had L cars.
Fantastic. Oh,
Yeah.
I tried to find one that was actually decent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is great. I
Yeah, that works. Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah.
The
That's
real
good
question
enough.
is, what is the official length of the Defiant? Because it seems to be different in every area that I.
It does. Yeah.
It's like 120 meters or like 160 meters. I don't know what the official length is.
It's as long as it needs to be.
Exactly.
But then
It's for the
That's
plot.
what my wife
Yeah,
said.
every
Yeah,
plot
that's
about
true.
Star Trek ships is like plot based.
Oh yeah,
like,
show that.
the
But then
Enterprise
I've
D gets
got-
its ass kicked.
Yeah, that's
repeatedly.
fantastic. I love
The
that.
Enterprise E. Did you want to?
That's because
Yes.
they always have to
Every time I go past your desk, I see that
translate
and
the
go,
length.
See this?
Since it is the
I'm
Star
very proud
Fleet,
of that.
Yeah.
they don't go by meters, they go by feet.
But that was the thing when I first
Also,
had
is
it
it
back to my
worth
desk. That was the
engaged or
Facebook
not?
post I did, which was
Because
there's another starship coming in.
Where'd
Yeah,
you get this?
I got it off of the
Oh.
Amazon.
Really?
You warp space, they don't
$22.
necessarily
So here's
warp
the
the ship.
excuse me.
Spend no expense. Yeah.
but if you warp the space around the ship, then it's going to change depending on whether you're
Brought
in
in
the
my
warp bubble or in.
sister's Star Trek shuttle
It's
holiday.
all relative.
Oh yeah, the holiday ornaments were so
Spock
cool.
Says,
Yeah.
Happy holiday.
Oh, I got a
Yeah.
Sulu Christmas tree over there.
Yeah, no, that works. Yeah.
This is so fun to watch.
There's another
It is,
starship
yeah.
coming in. It's the Enterprise.
And then this is my newest
We're
piece.
making
It's
a
got the
bad
little
movie.
things on it because I haven't hung it yet. But I got this from the Comic Expo. This is the one I was telling you about.
The one we were at with
Yeah.
you and
Yeah.
the same
There's
time
like
we
a
never saw
real
you.
discussion going
Alright,
on.
so
Yeah.
here we go.
But yeah, I
wow.
just got that from the
You
Cincinnati
go
Comic
back so you
Expo.
can see what the light-
The
Oh.
artist who did it, I
There we go.
think he's listed on the back there. He's very talented. Yeah.
I cannot read that
2019?
signature.
It's on the sticker.
It's actually a gravity generator.
Oh, that looks terrible. Okay. I don't think you're gonna. Oh, that's
My favorite part was
Good.
when I saw it, I loved it, but
It's like all
also
black for a
Yeah.
second,
he had named this
I can see
piece
the
Tough
bike
Little Ship.
tire and
Tough
space.
little ship.
So of course I
Oh,
got
I
it.
saw that guy. Yes, I
Yeah.
saw that.
Yeah.
Bike tire.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
That's the stand
Yep.
that he got that from.
And
Oh yeah.
I think I'm going to get
I was
one of
like,
those ships.
really
I'll send you the link.
STO.
Yes, I will.
Everything's
Yes,
so
please.
shiny.
Is it Eagle Moss?
I just got it off of Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah, and SDO, you can actually get your own ship made, I think.
That's true. Yeah, your own STO ship. There's some.
Are you all
sort
right,
of-
Jeremy?
Yeah, I want to do that too.
So fun fact: when I played STO,
Yeah.
all of my
No,
ships were named
that's
after
like
Farscape
watching,
characters.
like,
They were?
Yeah.
like,
So I had the
beer,
USS
like,
Crichton
birds in the
and stuff like that.
Oh,
really?
That's how. That's all my characters in Eve were named after Farscape.
So did I hear a rumor that someone said we have people watching this and actually viewing our?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's like
Oh,
9
boy.
live viewers
Oh, yes.
right now.
So
Yeah.
Joe Kirschbaum asked, "Is that on tin?" I don't know if it's tin, but it is some sort of metal.
I think it
looks
is
like
tin.
aluminum.
I think it is
Yeah,
tin.
I used
It
to
felt
make
like tin.
signs. I can tell you,
It's tin or aluminum.
it's aluminum.
Yeah,
Or
it's
it's
Aluminium.
aluminium.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
Viewers.
yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not transparent.
You know, the
Which-
first time I heard someone say aluminium, I was like, "What the hell is that?" Like,
Which
is that
to
some kind
be-
of new metal? And I started looking it up. And
Which
I
to be
started
fair-
smelling, I was like, "Wait a minute, it's
To be
aluminum."
fair,
I say to be fair,
You just spell
if
it
you
out.
pay
fair.
attention,
Yeah,
They spell it
aluminium.
that's why they pronounce it that.
Yeah, they do.
So for any of you that are watching
Back
that live,
last year.
our live
Last year?
broadcast, I'm
Live
going to
nonsense.
post a picture from one of the members.
You do not have my
who
consent.
Is what's that? Shut up! Goddamn. Yeah, a member who is part of a online community that does creative work with Star Trek videos, movies, shows, basically making GIFs out of it. And he's got some Star Trek Vegas stuff. So let me post this right now.
Wait, is it Star Trek New Vegas?
His name, I'm not sure about that. His name is Camel Horse. Camel Horse. So he sent me this.
Joe does not appreciate somebody's pronunciation of aluminum.
Aluminium.
Aluminum.
It
So
was
if you
mine
would
from
look at that
Glasgow.
link, so
Yeah.
wow, that's some nice. Here you go, Mike.
oh man,
Let me
those
put that
poker
here.
chips.
They
That's
look
awesome.
like paws.
It looks like poker chips.
Yeah.
I don't think no, those are like.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Yeah, they have
Yeah, they're
like
$5.
paws.
Yeah, they're from like the casino.
Camel Horse, if you're listening, would you tell us what these are? Are they?
Poker chips.
Those are poker chips. Yeah.
Those are poker chips.
Yeah, for
okay.
sure.
Okay.
I mean, they got like denominations on them. They got monies on them.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Well, then they're definitely not poker chips.
I'm gonna throw something at you.
So for anyone listening, if you want to show us we're doing a show and tell. So please feel free to send us anything that you've got that show and tell.
Which is
and-
frankly a dangerous thing to do
Yeah,
on the
that's
internet.
not-
Yeah.
So
We do
within
not want dick
the
pics.
constraints of what's
It does-
appropriate.
Star Trek themed.
It does bother me though that they did poker chips.
Look at this tattoo I have.
Whoa!
Strips
looks
and
just
bars,
like
slips
mine.
and strips and bars of gold pressed platinum.
So one of our watchers, Camel Horse, he said that those are casino chips, $5 each.
Mm, okay. Okay.
Did any
What casino?
Gold pressed latinum.
Yeah, it should be gold.
They could have done
gold
strips
plus
and
Worthless
slips.
gold.
Yeah.
It's all worthless
What
gold.
casino is that?
The casino on Fremont? Brother. Oh, no, that's the Las Vegas casino.
Yeah,
Vegas Hilton.
There's
Vegas
Believe the
Hilton.
name of that casino.
He's got it right here.
Las
Vegas Hilton.
Vegas one. They've only got one casino.
So he said,
The only game there is Dumb John.
he said here that the Vegas Hilton had an entire wing of casino dedicated to Star Trek. Remember that?
Yep, that makes
Yeah,
sense. Yeah, yeah.
Las Vegas Hilton. So
Yeah, I was there. I just never gambled.
you went there?
Well, I told you that.
Yeah,
He
you
has
showed me
pictures.
pictures. Yeah.
Him and Al.
I was
I
in.
wanna see
cell
that.
phone pictures.
Me and Joe Kirschbaum and
Al.
were there. We spent all our time in Cork's Bar. We didn't actually gamble.
Joe,
That's
if you're
what I was
listening, we have
Sounds
to
like
have
a good
you
time.
the next-
Yeah.
the next recording.
That was the correct move.
Joe,
Yeah, we had
we love you, Joe.
like there was replicators. They were awesome. My meal was flaming targ.
Nice.
It's delicious.
Flaming tar?
Yes,
What did that taste like?
Chicken.
it actually tasted like
Pot roast?
bourbon braised ribs.
Because that's what it was.
No gawk.
Right.
Yeah,
Gawk.
it's kind
I want gawk.
of what it
Only live
was.
fresh gawk.
It was
Yeah.
flaming though. They did put some flammable substance and like ignite it.
Did you walk
Could you
in,
get prune
slam your
juice?
hand down, and go, blood wine?
Warriors drink.
Warriors drink.
Warriors drink.
Let me just give you guys a disclaimer right now. We've been going for almost 3 hours. I'm
Yep.
Oh,
not,
Jesus.
I was
I'm
gonna
not
say,
editing,
what was your
I'm not
time
editing
limit?
any of this.
Yeah.
It's going to be all live
Mm.
because there's no way I'm going to sit through a 3-hour recording
It's just
to
going
try
up.
to edit anything. It's
Edit
just
out
going to be
vanity.
raw guerrilla podcasting.
That's the
Yeah.
best. Those are the best.
Yes.
So that was my question to you was
My breasts
time
have been
limit.
everywhere in the
Yeah.
multiverse.
So, Randy, I do have a specific question for you. Because you're real big on cybersecurity here with our company. So and so is Mike. So I would like to hear
I guess I'll
He's a poser.
the
Jason.
I would like to hear from the two of you in regards to the cybersecurity, in regards to there have been many cases where Enterprise, Voyager, Defiant, whatever it is, gets hacked, taken control of, et cetera, et cetera. So why is that happening, and what could they be doing to keep that from happening?
You'll notice that most of the times that happens, it's social engineering.
Okay.
With
Or open RDP ports.
Yeah, those will get you every time.
yeah, Blue Castle. It's just no. So like in Nemesis, they get the positronic signal. They pick up B4, and lo and behold, he's been programmed by Shinzon to whatever. The lore, like it's always data. It's always data in his brothers. But like every time it is.
He's got a group of brothers that
like-
just malcontents.
Yeah.
Crystalline entity.
Well, then he encrypts like the command password on the Enterprise with the password. Like there's like 6 9ers in there. I don't know.
Yeah.
No
science.
Password ever.
Alpha
No
Charlie,
fine.
Charlie. Yeah.
I have a video of that.
It literally
Yeah,
was
that's
just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That's the same as my luggage.
Yeah, like, you'll notice it's never like they get hacked from like some outside signal that just like like hacks into the computer.
Right.
I think that happens like once or twice.
Right.
But it's almost always social engineering.
Yeah.
And it absolutely goes to show you that like it's always the weakest link.
Right.
Well, remember that
it totally
episode-
is. It's social, like it's not even just like Android getting hacked. It's there's this neat new piece of technology that we don't understand.
It's the game.
Let's beam it on board and see what it does.
Do you remember the episode where Wesley found the flash drive in the parking lot and he plugged it in?
God damn it, Wesley, God of space.
So what's your reaction from you guys? So Mike, Randy, Jason, John, Mike, everyone. So in Discovery, there was a line about there was an SQL injection.
Was it? Are you serious?
I missed that.
Yeah, there was.
They're running
There was.
Express. I just know it.
So
Yeah, they didn't have.
They can't even.
Was it Microsoft? I mean, we got to get more specific on this.
It-
Do we know?
even in
which
the
version?
20
I don't
was that
remember.
the 23rd
Is that-
It was SQL 3027 version.
Yeah. So
Microsoft, MySQL. I mean, MariaDB. I mean, we got more
it was
specific.
definitely
more
not
with the AI
professional.
It was
Yeah.
vSQL.
Okay.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Jeremy, what?
I think that was the episode where the AI kind of like hacked Discovery, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. They use an SQL injection.
Yeah.
So apparently Microsoft still exists in the 23rd.
Hold on
No,
now.
no, no, no,
Hold
no.
on.
Could you imagine that though? Could you imagine being in like Warp 5 and PSODing? What would that entail? Seriously.
Your inertial cameras would be offline. They would be flat up against
Oh
the
crap! The
wall.
VPN failed.
Like literally, they wouldn't be able to come out of warp until the computers came back online, and they wouldn't have any autopilot to steer them away from like asteroids. and
We are
things.
configuring updates.
Oh shit! It's Tuesday. Wait.
It's Pat Tuesday.
We're preparing your Starship.
Captain's
for you.
log. I can see Captain's log starting. Oh shit.
Unfortunately, the network card driver wasn't signed with a current.
Right.
Hey, I'm Cortana.
You have lost your connection to Starfleet. Subspace network is currently offline.
Oh shit!
No, Clippy would come up.
You just got to turn your subspace communications to a metered network,
Just,
and then you don't have to worry
just
about
a moment. We haven't changed anything. Please wait for the next 27 minutes.
Do not turn off your Starship applying updates.
No. But the best part.
Oh my God! Do not shut down your warp core.
No, no, no.
Like updates.
But the best part then would be the captain having to call support and being told to do the needful.
No. When you're in warp, all of a sudden the ship like drops out of warp, and the warp core just ejects itself, and you get a message up on screen that says "failed successfully."
Well, it didn't blow up.
Microsoft
It
still
does.
does exist.
Yeah.
It failed in a successful way that did not kill me.
I failed successfully. Thanks, Microsoft.
That's great.
That's gonna
Turn
be-
the warp core off and on again.
If I ever write
Did you do it
like
3
a
times?
biography of
3
I'm
times.
gonna name it that failed successfully.
And then the Romulans are like IQ 400 over there on Linux with a black hole that you can't turn off.
Yeah.
In
Quantum
my
singularity.
in my defense, I can't tell you how many tickets I have troubleshot where I was knuckle dragging, knee deep, trying to figure out what the hell's going on here, and I stopped and I said, "Okay, wait a minute. Let me just reboot." We reboot, see what happens, and it fixed it.
Yep.
It really does. And
Jurassic
that's
Park,
the-
it worked.
Yes, yes. That is the interesting thing about Star Trek. And this is where I want to go next. Is when they're troubleshooting these issues, the possible warp core breach, everything else. There's no shutdown, restart.
No,
Well, they also can't
I'm
create
not-
a
I'm
computer
not-
terminal that doesn't explode in your face.
I'm not good at
Let me
episodes.
just turn off
That's
your
very
life.
good
No, I'm
Well, I
not.
was gonna say,
Jefferson.
if they shut
Fine.
down, then yeah, life support's offline.
Jefferson, I'm not good at episodes, but I do
Everything.
remember an episode where the computer was not working correctly. And in order to fix everything, they had to shut it down completely
I think that was TNG.
Yeah, that was TNG.
That was TNG.
and then restart the computer.
And that was something. It was one of those like, oh god, something crazy happened on the
Is anyone
holodeck.
listening who remembers? Yeah, I know that one.
Is that Is that the one where Barkley like plugged himself into the holodeck and took over the?
the nth
Might have
degree?
been, yeah.
Yeah.
The nth degree where he took. No, I don't think that was that though.
Barkley became a super genius.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It was.
He became like the thinker from Flash.
Yeah.
Oh yes, yeah. You watched the Flash?
Well, yeah, and I
Awesome.
I've read some of the comics.
Very
yeah.
eclectic taste.
Yep. Oh yeah.
All right, so here's another one. So LCARS currently still looks futuristic.
Yeah.
And from an IT side, from a technical side, we have dealt with Windows, and we're pretty much a Windows shop. Like we know Windows, we're comfortable with Windows, we work with it. Mac comes up occasionally. I don't think Linux has ever really come around.
Yeah.
So-
well, Datto comes completely off the Linux.
Right, Datto
And
is pretty much Linux.
On the more enterprise scale,
Yeah.
Linux is way more common. And that's where I come from, and
Right.
Randy comes from. But Yeah.
So with LCARs, so you guys know LCARs, what year will this no longer be the case in regards to it looking futuristic?
When it's the norm.
Well,
What's
I think
that?
Microsoft
It's a
is pushing
static
it.
interface.
It's called the
Yeah.
Universal Windows platform, and it's
Oh,
all these
God.
crappy
Metro.
icons on the start menu.
They've already,
Might you just give me a
Microsoft
Twitch?
has already said, we're going away with the UWP.
Thank God.
They have said that it is not the future of whatever, and it's not something that we're doing. So while I appreciate that you think that that's the future, Microsoft has denounced your views.
I'm very happy about that because I
Me too.
feel like just that, and also like the redesigned, refreshed, simplified settings menus are nonsense.
Yeah, less is more. And except if you have to get to all of the features that you're supposed to be able to get to.
Right.
And then you have to find the hidden old MMC.
Well, the thing that kills me about the whole thing is that one of the main draws for UWP from Microsoft has been the sandboxing feature, where it's compartmentalized. It keeps itself away from the core, so if it goes down, it only takes itself out. But they're also trying to promote interactivity between all the components. So how does that work? And it doesn't work, which
Jefferson's making funny faces to anyone that's
God damn it,
No.
Randy, that's behind the scenes stuff.
Jefferson's
You're
making
not-
inappropriate faces.
Mhm. Jefferson, put your penis away.
Oh my God.
So LCARs looks futuristic because it's non-functional, in my opinion. It looks awesome because it's a bunch of cool patterns and colors, but when you actually sit down and try to use it, none of the interfaces make any sense. Which makes sense because it was designed back in the day before touch interfaces were a thing.
Yeah.
But
Well, I think too with LCARs, I think part of the thing is
That's what I'm talking about.
with AI, I think what's my interpretation of LCARs is that it's
There
going
you
to
go.
present
Exocoms. Sorry.
viable options for the situation. So you basically put in your input of, this is where I'm at, this is what's going on, and then it presents you with those options in that interface, and then you select from there. So I see it more as an AI integrated ongoing calculation to where it's constantly seeking more input before it actually gives you an output.
I guess you'd really have to have a lot of trust in your AI operating system to make sure the right prompts are up for you to hit.
Well, yeah,
And,
21st century.
Whatever operating system they have in the future, I just hope Microsoft is not involved because then you're going to get all the wrong options and you're going to end up ejecting the workforce successfully.
Talking about evolving,
And you won't get
So-
control when you get updates.
talking about evolving, this is a big topic. I
Very
really,
quickly.
really,
What would happen if you ejected the work core while in work?
you'll drop out of work.
Well, didn't that happen?
That
Yeah, I
would
think
be,
that happened.
The workhorse
that
is just a
happened.
generator.
that would be the red screen of death.
Yeah, okay. That's what that's what I was looking for.
So I really want to talk about
Kernel panic.
the
I understand that.
the equality, the rights that extend past what we're used to, and we're talking about the exocomps and data, the doctor, the holographic doctor. So
The exocomps were a different thing. We were talking about the nanobots that Wesley
Yeah.
the exocomps, yeah,
No, the exocomps are the tool that lady made that becomes self-aware.
right.
But that was a totally different episode because the nanobots are like the microscopic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Because he made them for some project and then they got out.
yes, yes,
Like-
yes.
did
You might get
something-
clued in by the word nano.
So real quick before we move on to that, I just want to point out, mostly I want to bring in a Nemesis reference just to annoy you a little bit, I guess.
Failer-on radiation.
Brought it up. But the whole idea that you talk about the difference between PC and Mac, even data gets thrown off by this. With the if you remember in Nemesis when he couldn't figure out the Riemann thing.
Yeah.
Okay, here's
Because purple means no.
No, he said I was trying to look up the quote, but he said Riemann is the most complex language with pictographs representing different verb roots.
Yeah. Here's my beef. You guys want to hear my beef?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait.
So
Wait.
I want to hear the beef.
Want to hear my beef?
Whoa.
Close your nose.
Right. Here's the beef.
Arby's?
So,
They
Data
have.
breaks Picard out of this holding facility.
Mhm.
They get to a Reman fighter.
Mhm.
They sit in there.
Mhm.
After they get past the door lock, Data, with his positronic brain, has difficulty with, finally figures out
Mhm.
they're in this fighter.
Mhm.
And
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Picard kind of figures it out.
Mhm.
They're able to fly well enough to get out in a language that they're not familiar with at all, in a type of fighter that they've never been in ever,
Mhm.
or that there's no learning on.
Yeah.
I cannot sit in my mother-in-law's car and find the windshield wiper, the emergency brake, or anything, and it's in English. How the hell?
Are your eyes open?
Yes.
So here's
No,
here's
Data,
the
what do
big
you think this
It's
is? The aft
ridiculous.
thruster. Would you like me to drive, sir?
Were you thinking
So
in
here's-
Russian?
So here's
No.
the best part about that is
No,
that
I know.
it's
You
not
check
meant
off.
to make sense. It's meant to be entertaining. And when I first saw that, I laughed when he did the "What do you think this is?" And then he said, "Would you like me to drive?" I laughed at that because I'm a simple creature. And then them flying through the corridors, that was just a fun action.
If I
scene.
sat in your car right now, I would
I'm not
be
saying
able-
it's
I would
realistic.
not be able to find the windshield wiper or
Right.
how to get it in.
But in this hypothetical situation, we're talking about a capitalistic society where there are multiple vendors of vehicles that are trying to differentiate themselves from each other. And what we have here is a essentially communistic society that has single vendors for their vehicles. So you would think that everything would be built in a semi compatible, simplistic way that could be identified from previous experience.
But you're assuming they don't have like we do, which is multiple companies, multiple places that these things come from. Like,
Right.
a
Well,
Humvee does not drive the same as an M1 Abrams.
But I mean, you can
right.
look at
But
another
you're,
way too.
that society that we're talking about is a communistic, single sourced society where it's a kind of a utopia where everything is being created. So
Yeah. But one slight
we're
correction. It's-
jumping over Amber.
Oh, Amber, yeah.
I know.
It's
Let Amber talk. But Amber, you have the floor.
Right? Jesus. Anyway,
Jesus is on the Enterprise?
Mansplain.
so, I mean, what if it's not just being able to find like your windshield wipers and all that kind of stuff?
Okay.
What if it's more like some people, not all people, I mean,
Okay.
some people, they can play an instrument and they take years to learn that instrument. And other people can pick up an instrument, play it, go to a different instrument, play it, and just have several instruments that they can play and right away without like learning it at all. They just pick it up. It
But
Also,
could be somebody that's just really good at picking up stuff.
it's not familiar. It's not familiar at all. There's been no training on it.
I mean,
It doesn't
is a
matter.
guitar like a flute?
Also,
Well,
It really
comes down to when they rolled their characters, their intuition was a 10.
no, he put ranks and rise.
They got 3
Oh,
sixes.
shit.
They dropped the one.
So I think it comes down to somebody was just trying to write a fun little goofy action moment, and in my opinion, it worked. Obviously it goes back to opinion. And so I wanted to bring that up because you mentioned earlier, like I will fight you, and I will fight people to the death over Star Trek Nemesis. So
It had many other problems. Like,
I
Nemesis
will.
had like tonal issues and it felt weird. Like out of all the next gen movies, it was by far
Yeah.
my least favorite.
Well, especially that it was
Nemesis was.
Oh yeah.
Why is that?
It felt weird. The villain was unlike any other in the fact that he would like.
Can I hold your hand too, Mike?
What do you mean?
speak into the tricorder.
Speaking into the tricorder. Okay, so I think they sort of crossed the line.
Sorry, I
where
just caressed my.
essentially the vision or the villain of Nemesis, like in a way, assaulted Troy.
Yes.
More than in a
Yes.
way.
Not in a
Literally
way.
did. Yeah.
Not in the way he
Assaulted
did.
Troy.
Yeah.
And just I feel like they went over a boundary they hadn't before.
No, they have before.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's an episode where Troy is I don't know, mentally assaulted.
By that other.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right.
Maybe
It was the episode where those
Whatever.
those delegates and masters were.
Yeah. Where you find out the dude was like feeding mentally off the
Well,
Yeah,
then I guess my other big problem with Nemesis was they just go and they create this super powerful starship,
Mhm.
and it's just capable of withstanding
Primary-
insane amounts of damage. that
Primary
no
and
other
auxiliary
starship
shield.
No.
can-
Well, you know why that was, right?
And it can
Yeah,
fire
sure,
close.
that's
Well, you know why that was, right? Because we'd already seen a movie where they literally one shot a board cube. So the writer then went, well, shit, what can I do now? That's why they did that.
Oh,
Now,
I know. They
do
were
I-
on radiation.
Yeah.
Plus, the Russians have
So
technology
stupid.
where they can fire cloaked.
I'm very confused right now.
But like, no, I get what you're saying on that. Now with I enjoyed that movie greatly because I feel like unlike and especially in comparison to like the JJ movies, because I feel like and I forget who wrote Nemesis, but I feel like at least that person had an idea of what Roddenberry wanted to do because they went with
Jesus.
What?
If I had a
It's
tribble
for-
for every time a Troy was assaulted.
Yeah.
but like so
rape
so
song.
the whole idea with that and literally Data and Picard talk about it at one point. And he says, you know, B4 is physically identical to me, but he is not experienced. It's basically the idea that our experiences make us individual. Even if we, are born identical, we're not going to have the exact same experiences. I liked that. I feel like that was the theme. That's why they went with B4 missions.
And then he was just like a Romulan Riemann toy. Like he didn't.
Yeah,
it
but
felt so.
But if he had the upbringing that he did, where literally the only person that wasn't a cruel piece of garbage to him, at least that he could tell, was Ron Perlman's Riemann character, then yeah, he would be like, I'm going to fight for these people, even though he didn't realize he was clearly being manipulated by them too.
If his sole motivation was surviving,
Mhm.
then he should
It
have.
was never surviving.
That's
It
what
was
they play it off
conquest. He
as.
literally says that conquest. We are bred for
Then-
conquest. He said. Yeah.
That's not why he abducted Picard, though. The only reason he abducted Picard
Was to save his own life.
to save his own life.
Yeah.
And that's like the premise of the movie. But also it's like, oh, he wants to blow up Earth too. And it's like, it felt so jarring.
It
and
was
so
very
like,
contrived.
yeah. And it was like they were trying to go in 3 different directions at the same time and pack it all into one movie and like shove it into an hour and a half. I still love that movie. I love it.
Yeah.
I think the writing I think they tried to do too much with too little time and too little
I can agree with
material.
that. Yeah, I can agree with that.
There was a lot of problems with that movie.
Yeah.
I think it could have been done a whole lot better if they had just focused on him trying to capture Picard to survive.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I think they could have made a sequel out of it even.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Well, here's
but
my
they tried to do all of that in one movie. And
is
it
that
felt
people
so
talk about
frantic.
that movie like it is the bane of Star Trek's existence, and clearly they never saw the JJ movies. I'm
Yeah.
thinking. So,
Well,
yeah.
Right,
It,
no,
it was the bane for like
Clearly,
the
it's
longest time,
the
because it
Discovery
existed in, like,
series. Is the,
what, early 2000s, and then J.J. Abrams
Mushroom
came
War.
out over a decade later.
Yeah.
So what's up with the fighting scenes, like the hand-to-hand combat stuff? Because it was just dudes running down a hallway at each other firing guns. That was
In what?
complete in Nemesis. It was just literally.
I'm sorry. What's up with hand-to-hand combat scenes in all of Star Trek?
It's all like
It's always
It was
garbage.
especially bad.
No,
It
it
was
was
double
especially
axe
bad.
hammer.
Unless
Unless it-
is
unless it
standing in
has
the
to deal
middle
with
of the
clean on the
hallway.
way.
Knock it. Exactly.
There's like 8 guys
Yeah,
shooting
you can knock
on
anyone
missing
out with
on
that.
them.
That's all you
It
got
was
to do.
pure
Is hit someone in the back.
stormtrooper
Boom.
shit.
Yeah.
Next.
And then
So
But I don't
And then
feel like
the
you get
biggest
to
problem
make
I had
that.
was just tactics. Like the ship they had made no sense that they would have something so super powerful. All of a sudden, they just invent all these technologies
Yeah.
that they didn't have access to. They went against every like previous battle out there that showed that if you get hit by 40 torpedoes, you're going to be damaged, and they're just flying
So,
around like nothing happened.
Let's
Is
be
it
real.
primary and auxiliary?
Shields, torpedoes, phasers very clearly do different things based on the necessary story. at hand.
Sure, and the necessary
Because-
story was that they were going to be crazy powerful
Yeah.
and unstoppable.
Well, but there was
I didn't like
there was precedence there because he talks about how Shinzon had fought, was it 12 major engagements in the Dominion War and was successful in every one. The idea there was that's why, because he had this dreadnought, unstoppable killing machine, and basically he would just roll up with that ship and whoever, whatever other ships he had, and would just roll over the Dominion.
Yeah, I think I think it was mentioned in one of the books that there were actually a pair of those, and they were together able to destroy a Fort Q.
Yeah, I could believe that. Yeah.
They wanted the ship not to be able to be taken over. They could have just included the Red Queen in,
Yeah.
and then obviously, like the entire ship is just corridors. It could just be the laser grid.
Yeah.
Like no one could invade.
Well,
because
so-
okay, so
laser
speaking
grids-
of
And
corridors,
obviously the Borg
speaking
and
of
the
corridors,
Dominion
man,
never
shit.
had the data missile. That was the ship's downfall, was the data missile.
Data missile, yeah, that's true. That was really sad
Star
and
Trek
hilarious at the
in
same time.
General,
But-
just had terrible tactics.
But so one of the going back to that fighter and flying it down the hallway, ridiculous scene. But the fact that like 100 remans like run out in front of the damn thing and immediately die, and it's like maybe just step off to the side for a second. What are you gonna do with a hand rifle phaser against a fighter flying down the hallway
Yeah.
with shields and everything?
Reminds me of World War II when they had the Japanese fire bolt action rifles at airplanes.
Well, kind of a.
It would make more sense if the airplane was flying directly at them,
Right.
Which they weren't because that was the Japanese
Up
doing
and
it.
at them.
No, up and at them.
So I thought it had problems with the story, but also just
Watch
the
out, you like this
execution
man.
of all the action was just nonsense.
Yeah.
And that was
Oh,
my biggest problem. Was,
and then I
was
couldn't-
just poorly acted.
Yeah,
in,
and then
in action.
the woman Romulan senator, what the hell side was she on? Like,
Dina Meyer?
We
like
were talking Deep Space Nine.
no, and
Like any good
She
Romulan,
flipped
she was
sides
on
like
the side
6
that she thought was going to win.
Right.
but
What's up
she
with their
flipped sides
warbird
like
design?
6 times.
Like they create these like super sleek looking warbirds and they get annihilated super fast.
Yeah.
I feel like those things were just light cruisers, and they're going to call them dreadnoughts. And
I feel like that goes back again to what I was talking about earlier, which was he made a ship that was just an unstoppable killing machine. And that was part of his, because I mean, clearly, like he literally did a coup to seize power. And clearly the only way he could do that was be like, hey, I've got this ship that you can send as many as you want against. I will raffle stomp every one of them. And he did that. So
All in all, it was a Star Trek action flick that was done better than any JJ verse movie.
it was,
So-
because I feel like personally, not since the original Wrath of Khan did I see a one-on-one ship fight where I felt like this is vicious. Like the scene where he literally rams the thing into the scimitar, I lost it in the theater. Like when they start charging, I was like, holy shit.
that was
Like
the
I said,
only logical
attached
thing.
bayonets.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
exactly.
Bayonet is the front of the ship.
Yeah.
So actually, I would like to know, what are your guys' thoughts on Insurrection?
I like
It was
Purple
a
Space Bazooka.
episode of
That's all I got to
TNG.
say. Purple Space Bazooka.
Yeah, it's great.
It was an episode of TNG,
It was a 2-part episode, right?
2-part episode.
But all in all, not bad, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't treat it like a movie, I thought it was fantastic.
Well, okay, so let me tell you this. Many, many years ago, and I remember I was on vacation with my wife, Nacho when he was real little, my mother-in-law, and my brother-in-law and his wife. And I remembered sitting on the couch down there. We were, I think we went to South Carolina or North Carolina, one of the two. And I read a script. On a proposal for what insurrection would be. I can't remember who wrote that draft of that script, but basically it was it would have Romulans. It would be a very Romulan-centric kind of thing. It's been so long ago, I forgot a lot of the details, but I just remembered thinking that this would have been great. It would have been a very good story, but what was detailed in this original draft of the script that would have been great was that Patrick Stewart and Brent Spiner used their influence that they had on the franchise to turn it into something that was more wholesome, because First Contact was kind of, full of dread, action oriented, et cetera, et cetera. So they turned it into let's make this a lighthearted romp kind of thing. And that's what we got, because they stepped in and made it what they wanted it to be instead of what we should have gotten.
Yeah.
So it was very different.
Yeah, maybe.
I will forever cherish it just because of Worf's purple space bazooka.
Yeah.
Like
So
climbing up this mountain,
So here's
and all of a sudden Worf just has a bazooka.
Yeah, here's
That's
what
great.
here's what I don't get. You both just talking about all the ridiculous, nonsensical action scenes in Nemesis. I'm sorry, Insurrection had way more nonsensical action scenes. The stupid drones that are like, oh yeah, we're gonna tag people, and that's gonna
Isolinear tags.
yeah.
I would just
That's all
like
your
to say that Klingons have very large anuses.
Oh my God, Jesus.
I thought it was the brow ridges. They just got storage up there.
There's not enough room in a brow for bazooka. Say that.
Let me
The
take
old
this.
prison wall.
That's right.
This is a pretty significant.
Keister in
size.
that bazooka.
Let me try to put the wheels back on the train again.
I just want to point out
So-
that after that statement saying this is pretty significant size, because
Here's another one that we got from Camel Horse. So okay, we have right now Wi-Fi. We have Wi-Fi. We have the Open Mesh, Meraki, Linksys, Cisco, whatever it may be. And I think one of the things that has been sort of, and I realized that when this first came around, there was no such thing as Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
But so we have that now, and what we should do, and what he posed is assume that every character has a mobile device. So we've got a cell phone, the PDA. Amber, sit down. You're not leaving. You gotta stay.
Bye, Amber.
Bye, Amber.
Bye, Amber.
Sorry.
Bye, Amber.
Bye.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Monday.
So assume these devices. Assume these devices are connected
Connected.
to the Federation Internet, which is probably Cincinnati Bell, which we hate and it sucks. Chat messages, Wikipedia, etc. So here's what I want you to do, and this is what he proposed. Pick a TNG episode, any episode. How does that change the episode if you have a cell phone, pad, device, anything that connects to the wireless on the Enterprise that connects to their version?
Doesn't
of the
matter.
Internet?
You have to know how to search.
I have.
And how do you do that?
The answer to that is because they're in the future,
Mhm.
they have already learned the lessons illustrated by President Trump. There is a betting or a China-like filter over what can be published to the multi-net.
So no
Subspace net.
Klingon anus
Subspace
bazooka.
net.
it's a huge net. We know that. Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't know about them
You wouldn't know about the Klingon anus bazooka.
until
Come on. Why, John? Why?
Oh my
Why?
God.
Why are you talking about Klingon anuses?
We're like 4 hours into this. It's watershed at this point. Dude.
It
Yeah.
is. It
They
is.
have two net already. They're
Is the air off in this
It
room?
feels like it.
Yeah, you got to turn it off.
All right, turn it back on.
Start
Start
4 hours
4chan.
ago when you said turn off the AC.
I think we've officially just gone into where no man has gone before, and I would like to not, be hot over it. So, yeah.
Well, I don't know how
Randy,
it turned
please
off
continue.
initially. Yeah.
Well, that was kind of the end of my comment in that.
Klingons have giant anuses. Yeah.
Right. I mean, obviously they're black.
Oh, come on. Oh, Jesus.
Yes.
I'm sorry
It's huge.
if I offended anyone there, but where else are they going to put their bazookas?
So we've got a good one from Joe Kirschbaum, who is a dear friend of ours. He's part of the gaming group Team Boom Tape, TBT, that a lot of us are a member of. He is with Zero Day,
Yep.
and
He's helping with the
Extra Life.
Extra Life. Thank you.
Yeah, so Joe Kirschbaum is with Zero Day Technology Solutions, and every year they do a gaming party marathon for Extra Life to raise money for for the young ones, for the children, and it's great. It's a very good charity that they do. So he asked a question. So first is, have we seen Star Trek Beyond? And if we have, what is our opinion on the take of the end of the 5-year mission? So the Into Darkness was, let me think, 2259-ish, and Beyond was 2263, which if you align that with the Prime timeline, one of the 5-year missions in which Kirk took over was 2265. So basically, what is your opinion on the way that Star Trek Beyond handled the 5-year mission?
Well, we didn't see it, right? It just happened, and then now we're right at the tail end, and then Kirk wanted to essentially get promoted to get out of the Enterprise, get out of the hot seat, because at that point it sounded like he was either bored or depressed, or a combination of both.
Okay.
And then distress call and really poor tactics, and action movie commences.
Every time I watch that scene when they're attacked on that planet, I scream at the TV, "Get out of there! Get out of there! Leave! Turn about and go!" And Spock even said, "We are not equipped to an engagement of this type or whatever." Yeah, he should have turned tail and ran, but that's Kirk. That's Kirk. He is headstrong, thinks they can do whatever, anything, and he lost a ship over it. So
Again.
yeah.
I'm just saying, with the middle name of Tiberius, I'd be trying to line you too.
Who is he already lost one ship. I want to know the Starfleet crew members that are willing to get back on board another ship with him as the commanding officer. I would never do that in a million years, because I think he is an interesting action hero, but a very poor captain.
Yeah.
He makes terrible decisions.
We're talking specifically about J.J. Kirk, right?
Yeah. J.J. Kirk, yes.
Yeah.
So why? Okay, so why wouldn't you serve with Kirk again if you were on the Enterprise and it was destroyed and you survived?
Well,
it's only been 3 movies, and they're on their 3rd ship.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they're literally building a 3rd ship at the end of the 3rd movie.
Mhm.
And just his approach to everything is more emotion based than logic based, which is why I'm also a big fan of Picard over Kirk, even the original Kirk,
Mhm.
because I think logic should dictate action in almost every circumstance, and that's what Picard is. And he takes a very cautious approach to anything, whereas Kirk is more, let's get in there and shake it up and see what comes out.
There's benefits to both sides,
Right.
though.
Sure.
Logic-based actions are really good in planning, in going into a planned situation, in some type of an operation. However, if you are forced into a situation, you're a lot of times going to be acting on intuition, experience, and things of that nature where you don't necessarily have the time to think about or, even consult a group of people, you can't call a timeout.
So
Um,
I think this is like the biggest difference between J.J. Kirk and original Kirk is that even in the Kobayashi Maru, Kirk cheated so that he wouldn't lose his fake ship and fake crew. The real original series Kirk wouldn't put the ship in jeopardy like that. And then all of a sudden, J.J. Kirk has lost 3 ships and it's completely insane. They're like,
Wait a minute, where are you getting that?
Lost
Which
2 ships. Sorry.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
My bad.
He might have crashed another one.
He also went from.
I mean, it's been 5 years. I can't imagine he's been on the same ship for that long.
Yeah.
He also went from butter bar lieutenant to captain in 2 hours?
A day. Yeah, 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing I could think of is the reason his crew's sticking with him, or maybe the survivors, is because they don't have the perspective that we have. Like, we are as moviegoers, that we can view all the actions on the bridge. We're there in real time. Whereas the crew, down in the bowels of the ship, they're just like, oh, shit blew up. It's probably not his fault because he was out doing,
But
lots
the
of
big
action
thing,
stuff.
the thing you have to take into account as well as with JJ Kirk is everyone has the same level of experience. You don't have anybody that's senior that's saying, "Oh, I'll take part of the Enterprise," and then seeing this young captain and going, "What the hell's going on?" Everyone in there is fresh. Everyone, their experience is the same as Kirk's. So you don't have any senior people, anyone that's experienced, any kind of confrontation or any kind of other situation. So they're riding along with, okay, we hit a hard time. He got us through it,
Yeah, he did.
So
Yeah,
at that
yeah.
point, there's a trust building that occurs from that, where, okay, if they go on to another ship, they obviously might not encounter the same situations due to, specific guidance or anything else like that. But, like anything else from people, they're going to go with what they're comfortable with.
Yeah.
So that's why I see the same people getting on board, because it's like, okay, your heart's in the right place. Might not, no one else would have made those decisions, but you got us through it. So now I have trust in you.
Plus, Congress said that there's proof that there was biological weapons.
There you go. Well, I mean, that goes.
There was oil.
In the JJ movies, there are no established procedures for anything. It feels like.
Yeah.
I don't know how these people manage to construct starships and get out into space, because they just stand around and they look at things that are about to happen to them, and they don't really react all that well.
Right.
Whereas we should just have experience based on not necessarily starships, but Navy ships and aircraft, to know that in this situation we need to do this. And you should be able to apply some of that to starships. And it just seems like it's a bunch of young people standing around watching shit blow up.
But I think at the same point, though, it's a bunch of young people. I mean, it's no different than if you grab a whole bunch of young people, throw them in a Dunkin' Donuts. You've got a 20-year-old trying to guide a bunch of 19-year-olds.
But how would they get to the point where they are the only people in charge of a starship? If
Well,
they're that young?
in the first movie, I think a large part of the existing fleet was destroyed by whatever the heck his name was.
Nero.
Nero, yeah, he destroyed 7 or 8, 9 starships.
Yes.
I have to imagine that's the majority of the fleet.
Well, it can't be. It can't be. 8 ships cannot be the majority of the force.
Well, if you look
Starfleet.
at the size of Earth Starbase 1, it's not large. It's pretty small. I think that they're just creating Starfleet as a thing that's only been around for 20 or 30 years, and there aren't a whole bunch of ships.
Okay.
At least that's my view of it. I don't see that they're this huge established force, because if they were, they would have more senior people, and they have Pike. But other than him and a couple of admirals that don't actually go out and fly ships, it seems like they're all newbies. I feel like they should have other older people from different branches,
not necessarily Starfleet, but you could pull people from, I'm assuming there's still a Navy or an Army or anything like that.
More seniors stepping in.
Absolutely, absolutely. Instead of a bunch of young kids go out there and, see what happens.
They don't have a Meryl Streep of commanders, is what you're saying.
Mad Dog Mattis, you mean? You see, I can add nothing to this conversation because I never inflicted Star Trek Beyond on myself. So.
Yeah, no.
You have to.
I saw in the trailer from the director of The Fast and the Furious, and I said, I'm good.
Yeah.
And
Motorcycles involved, get out of it.
Yeah. And then once again,
Goddamn
Beastie
Beastie
Boys.
They're not motorcycles, man. They're speeders.
Because for some reason,
They have
Beastie
wheels.
Boys is the new theme song for Star Trek. So, yeah.
It was the
I'm
first
good.
one, it was appropriately used, and then they just kept
I disagree with that. It still didn't make sense, but whatever. And then they just kept doing it. And it's like, what are you doing? Yeah.
They're action movies. Trying to get logic out of them is
Yeah.
a fool's errand.
And then
In their defense,
JJ wasted all his good action scenes on the crappy Star Trek movies and completely destroyed Star Wars after that too. So.
right, right.
That's a whole other conversation.
Well, and
We can all agree
We
that
can talk about
the
Star
last
Wars.
Star
Star
Trek
Trek
was
fine.
not
So
great.
we should come up with a fantasy Star Trek.
what
Where
would that be?
where we assess the current characters and their strengths and weaknesses,
Uh-huh.
and then we create a fantasy team based on what we think the next movie is going to be.
Like the one they're gonna make? Or
I
the
like
one
that.
We
Right.
think? It's like
The
an
next
ideal
one we
one.
think is going to be made,
Oh, God.
and then assess points based upon our.
Oh yeah.
I'm putting like credits or whatever we're using as currency down on the new Enterprise gets destroyed.
No.
Credits.
They can't do that.
It's gonna blow up again. We're gonna be on B.
We should not even be on the 1701A.
We were never building.
Oh, Beyond. Oh, those movies are done. Like,
Well, at the end of Beyond, they were building it.
Maybe
yeah.
the next
They're gonna make
Enterprise
short-
is going to be an Airbnb.
I mean,
It's like a hotel, right? It's what they did to. Wasn't it Enterprise B or one of the Enterprises got turned into a museum in one of the TNG episodes? I'm trying to remember which one it was.
yeah, you're right. They talked about that. I can't remember.
Oh yeah, it was
Wasn't it like C?
no,
Or-
because
B was
C
Galaxy.
got destroyed,
C was Ambassador class.
So it must have been B.
Yeah, I
No,
think it was.
yeah,
D was an Excelsior class, right?
yeah, I think so.
D
'Cause
was
C
Galaxy,
was the one
C
that got lost.
Excelsior, B was Excelsior, C was Ambassador,
Mm-hmm.
D was Galaxy.
And no letter was Constitution, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then A was Constitution refit.
Yes.
The weird details I
And then Q was
it was this strange, like sleek.
yeah, but didn't they have a name
Penguin
for the
or,
class?
Not in the episode.
No. Okay. There's probably some member
J.
J shit.
It was J.
It was J,
That
not
was
Q.
just the
Yeah.
weirdest. Like we're gonna make a super thin, strange looking starship.
Well, I mean, it's a time ship, so it had to be crazy looking. Oh, Enterprise. You tried so hard.
I think Enterprise got a bad rap because, this is the part that I think really is the definition of a Star Trek fan. So when Enterprise originally aired, it just got lambasted left and right all the time. Everyone complained about it. There was nothing but bitching and moaning, et cetera, et cetera. So it finally got canceled. Just when it was getting good in season 4, they had so many good things happening for it. It was really picking up, and
I would have liked to have seen what they were going to do with the Romulans. Yeah.
right. And so what happened was the same people that are saying,
Hold on. So they're asking who everybody's favorite Star Trek doctor is.
Yeah.
"Oh, Star Trek Doctor, who's asking that?
Who's
asking
yours?
that? Missing names for us so we can get them to come back again."
Sheila.
I've
Sheila,
honestly not
okay.
put thought into that.
I'm
Bashir?
gonna say Bashir.
Yeah, no, I would
Bashir?
say.
Yeah, you've said
He's a
Bashir.
nice
so
guy.
many
He's a
times.
nice guy. He's a creeper.
What?
What? Listen, yes, he's a
Yeah.
creeper.
He was Section 31. He had all kinds of good
Bashir was the
adventures.
shit.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's right.
I'm
Okay.
telling you, he
No, I'm starting to wind down. That's why I wasn't thinking of it.
Him and Garrett. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
no, that's true.
I still go with Bashir.
No, I would too.
Really?
Well, the EMH was.
The EMH is
something
pretty good.
EMH was great, yeah.
I'm a doctor, not a light bulb.
Hey,
Please state the
Randy,
nature of a
I need
medical
emergency
emergency.
power to the bandwidth because right now I'm trying to look up stuff and
You're